Your eyes beaded in black and your soul full of scars. You are dreaming in your room when it's dark. Music on your mind and on your chin, there's a mark. You're a rebel, always a rebel. You are.
Good morning, everyone. Craig Lockard, your host of the Recruiter Podcast, the youngest man in the car industry. My first car sale and old car dog stories. That's going to be today's topic. And we're going to I'm feeling rebellious, as the song goes, as our intro song goes. So it should be an interesting morning today. I want to start out with, first of all, I want to put out some information that's all over Facebook. And for those of you in the car business, you'll be able to relate to this. And well wishes and prayers out to our friend Jim Ziegler and his wife Debbie. Jim is, I think, right now actually undergoing very significant surgery, esophagus. He has esophagus cancer. Excuse me. And so our prayers go out to the family and to Jim and his wife, Debbie. He refers to Debbie as his trophy wife. And Jim's a tough son of a bitch, and I'm sure he's going to make it through this thing. And but prayers are appreciated for Jim, and they've asked for him, and I think it'd be awesome to be able to do that. And a big outpouring of love to Jim. So it's we're probably gonna, and I know Adam, millionaire producer Adam's in the next room.
Hey, Craig.
Hey, dude. And I know that we talked about this a couple months ago, trying to get down to Georgia and do a all-day thing with Jim. And I think his recovery from this is going to be pretty extensive, pretty long. But I think probably in a couple months after his surgery, we'll go ahead and probably plan a trip down there and go down there and film him and spend a day in Georgia. That sound good to you?
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah, I think the audience would like it, and something we've been talking about. I talked to Jim about, and just want him to get through his surgery. I also want to point out our awesome new equipment in here today. We have new arms. We have new mics. Big time stuff, dude. Professional podcast, Adam.
Looks good.
Yeah. So, Adam, I don't know if you if you've been watching the sign stealing saga with the Houston Astros. You've been following that at all?
Yes, and I've seen that there's been a couple players that were plunked so far
Yeah.
already in the spring training games.
Yeah, pretty interesting. I don't know if you heard about this or not, but I guess in the first game that they had, Altuve got hit in the foot or so forth. But evidently there were maybe, 5, 6 signs in the crowd that people were holding that said Houston Asterix. Did you see this?
I did see that.
Yeah. And so, so they were holding these signs, but they didn't stay up long because the Astro players stole them.
Sticking to tradition of stealing signs.
Yes. Good joke.
What do they do there? I mean, they just have to let them have the signs, right? That's
Yeah, well, actually, I heard, now, I didn't see this, but son Joe Lockard pointed out they took somebody's sign. I don't know what the hell it said, but they actually grabbed somebody's sign. It didn't say Houston Asterix, and I'm not even sure that's true. That was just a joke, but I think they had somebody take the sign down.
there was 2 fans that were, and spring training games, you can sit right on the field, basically.
Yeah.
And they
actually grabbed somebody's sign.
Oh man, that's throwing me off.
Oops, sorry.
Hear my own voice.
Yeah.
They I don't know what they said exactly, but they went up and took them, right out of their hands. Couldn't have them.
That's crazy.
And that's part of what the commissioner said their punishment would be.
Right.
His kind of, his half-assed, I guess, punishment for the players. They have to deal with the public backlash.
Yeah.
and that's going to be worse than anything, in his words.
Yeah.
So I feel like they have to let the fans have their signs.
Yeah, well, that's true. And being a Cleveland Indians fan, we were right in the middle of all that. I mean, they basically, if all that's true, well, no, it is true, but the effect that it had on with their hitters, the Indians pitching staff was lights out, and they just lit them up for a couple of years and kept us out of the World Series. So and a former Indian pitcher by the name of Trevor Bauer called them out, I don't know, 3 years ago on this, and nobody paid attention to him. They just thought he was a whack job, and Bauer is kind of a whack job, but a great pitcher. But he'd been talking about this for years, and I don't know. They should be pissed, and a lot of players are pissed. I mean, Clevenger, another pitcher for the Tribe, talks something about, hey, stay off the plate or it's coming at you. And I heard on the way in, I was listening to some sports talk show, and Francona, the manager for the Indians, said, he talked to him. He said, because look, you say something like that, anything you throw inside, they're going to toss you from the game thinking you're trying to hit them. But should be an interesting year. I wouldn't want to be an Astro player, that's for sure.
No, definitely not. And for good reason, I think the players around the league are upset, especially,
Right.
You think about the fringe guys
Right.
who got called up, and maybe they had a game they were playing in Houston and got sent back down to the minors because they got lit up.
Exactly right.
Or you look at someone, I was reading an article, I think it was a Barstool article, just talking about, what's his name, from the Dodgers, Kershaw.
Yeah, Kershaw.
So Kershaw has this kind of thing hanging over his head that he can't perform in the playoffs.
Right.
And when they were in the World Series, when he pitched in L.A., he threw, like 6 innings
Right.
of like one-run baseball.
Right.
And he looked great. And then when he pitched Game 5 in Houston, he got lit up. He got taken out in the third inning.
Yeah.
I saw there was a stat. There was no, on his, I guess, curveballs and sliders, there were no swing and misses on any of them. Zero.
I didn't read that.
never
That's
happened.
interesting.
And then he comes back in Game 7. Obviously, they lose Game 5. They come back in Game 7, and he pitches like 3 innings, but he looks great. And
Yeah.
he's back in L.A.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot
I
of
did not know
trickle
that.
down.
That's weird. So what else is in the news there, pal?
We touched on a little bit of the coronavirus earlier.
Oh, yeah,
and,
coronavirus.
You seem to be preparing.
I am preparing. Yeah, actually, yesterday I had Joanna order some masks. Let me find that site. Not to freak everybody out, but let's see. What's the name of that site? Where is it here? Thunder Labs Premium Mask. Thunder Labs Premium Masks. They're actually, they're like $30 a pop. They're reusable, washable, and so forth. Supposed to be the premium mask. Consequently, the name. But Thunder Labs makes them, so you guys might want to check that out. But yeah, coronavirus. Interesting thing. I don't know. Probably everyone's probably freaking out about it. I'm probably freaking out about it too much. But
Yeah, these things look heavy duty. They're not the
Right.
typical
Yeah.
surgical masks.
no,
that you
man, it's
see.
Hannibal Lecter, right?
Yeah.
That'd be scary watching somebody walk around in those. But I ordered a bunch of them for my family. So
Looks
we'll
like they
see.
should have oxygen tanks just pumping in pure
Right.
oxygen to you.
That's right. That's right, man. So, yeah, it's been an interesting few days. Yeah, my net worth went down about $50,000 in the last couple of days. So, thank you, coronavirus, and that's pretty interesting. But like we talked, supply chains are being affected, so on and so forth. So, spend your money wisely. I don't see any reason not to be a little bit prepared, but obviously. Don't freak out about it, but preparation's probably not a bad idea.
At the very least, follow what's going on.
Yeah, follow what's going on.
Be
Yeah,
aware
that's a good
of what's
point.
going on. See where, outbreaks are happening.
Yeah, good point.
And
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are keeping travel limited,
Yeah.
which, maybe if you want to get your message out and talk to some people, you don't want to travel anymore, do a podcast.
Yeah, that's right. At All Systems Go AV here in
Yeah.
Bensalem, Pennsylvania.
Absolutely.
The premier spot. And we got this, I'll tell you what, if you want to do a podcast at All Systems Go AV, we invested in some really awesome new equipment, microphones, these beautiful arms, top-notch stuff, man. 3-camera setup, first class.
We're becoming a real podcast studio.
Yes, we
I had
are.
to shoehorn us in there.
That's right.
My
man.
apologies.
Yeah, no, it's all good, man. All right, so listeners and viewers, just a couple things real quick. You can catch this podcast on Facebook on our AutoMax recruiting page, and you can also catch us on YouTube on our channel AutoMax Recruiting. If you subscribe to that, that'd be awesome. If you could share this out, that'd be terrific. We are also, this episode and all episodes, there's about a 2-week lag, and then they go to all the audio platforms, whether it be Google Play, iTunes, so on and so forth, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, and so forth. So we're on all of those. Please subscribe, leave us a review, leave us a comment. That'd be awesome. Share the content. That would be appreciated as well. We're picking up a lot of steam, and that's cool. We've got some crazy cool guests coming up in the future that all you guys will be happy to see coming. And today, I announced this a couple days ago. We sent out an email. We posted it socially everywhere, but basically today's show is going to be stories about our first car sale and car dog war stories. Now, I've been in the car business. It will be 48 years this June, so probably been in the car business longer than most of our listeners. Our demo's pretty young. So, and I asked for and received a bunch of stories about my first car sale and so forth. I'm going to read as many of those as I possibly can today on the air in between some of my crazy war stories. And not only my first car sale, but just a lot of wacky car stories as we go along, with the thought being that some of them are funny, some of them are sad, frankly. Some of them are things that are flat out illegal today. Some of the things that I'm going to be talking about will give you a real good idea of why the automobile industry has changed, had to change, and is continuing to change. But hopefully we'll have a little bit of fun along the way. Those of you that would like to, I'm going to leave the Facebook page screen open. And if you guys want to add in a story, you're welcome to do so. And if I have time, I'm going to read it on the air. We have a couple recordings that were sent in that I will play during the course of the show. And it should be fun. So there's a lot to cover today along the way. And then we'll get into our sponsors and friends of the show here as the show goes along. But I want to go ahead and get started here and talk about my first car sale. Some water. I want to talk about my first car sale and progress from there. And there's no chronological order to some of these stories, but some are pretty wacky. So we'll get into it, and some of you guys can probably relate. And like I said, just go ahead and on the Facebook feed, go ahead and put those in. Also, if you guys would share this thing out, that would be awesome of you. I want to get this out to as many people as we possibly can today. We've been averaging 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 Facebook views per show here lately, so maybe we can break that today, and over the next week get 6,000 or 7,000 views would be pretty cool, and get this message out. But so, as some of you know, and I've talked about this a little bit, my father was in the car business I think he started in 1950. I was born in 51, believe it or not, because I'm the youngest man in the car industry. But chronologically, I'm approaching 68 years old. Chronologically. As a sidebar to that, and I don't know, we've talked about this before, and I think I've done this before, Adam, but I'm 4 days into a straight, this is going to drive my son Joe crazy, into a straight carnivore diet. I've for the last 4 days, nothing but meat, like, and a lot of it, but nothing but meat, well, and some eggs, but nothing but meat, nothing else, and water. That's it. And the reason I'm doing that is about 2 weeks ago, I had a platelet-rich plasma injection, PRP injection, where they pull blood out of you, they put it in a centrifuge, spin it, and inject it back into your knee. Helps regenerate, build tendons back into wherever your injury is. So while you get that, you're not supposed to do anything for a week. I've done this before, screwed up, because it felt okay the next day. And so I went ahead and started working out again, and that was a stupid thing to do, total waste of money. But this time I didn't. However, when I stopped working out, I belong to an amazing gym where they have a couple pools, and I swim, and I do some lifting and so forth. But when I stopped doing that, which I had to, then I eat like an idiot, and just Oreo cookies, you name it, man. I was stuffing all kind of bad stuff in my mouth, and when I do that, man, I get inflamed. It's horrible. So I decided Sunday to go to straight carnivore diet, and I'm 4 days in. My energy levels are better. My inflammation is down dramatically. I take other nutrients and vitamins and so forth to make up for anything that I'm missing, but I feel great. Now, I'm not saying everyone should be on a carnivore diet, and to you vegans out there, sorry, but I'm not sorry. Those of you, research it. Research carnivore diet. There's a couple good follows. I'd have to find it, but that's right, Melissa. I'm not 68. I'm approaching 68 chronologically, but I'm actually like 48.
Craig, is there any kind of like an adjustment period, or did you instantly see change?
The day after I saw change, literally. And at the gym, I'm actually sore today because I've been working out like a madman. I've been able to work out harder, longer, and so my muscles are a little sore. But I noticed literal immediate change. Like after the full day of carnivore, of nothing but meat, I felt the next morning, I felt great. And I'll tell you what's additionally, I guess it's interesting. Just recently, I bought an Apple Watch, and they have a sleep mode, and it tracks a whole lot. These Apple Watches, I thought they were kind of goofy for a while, and then I got one. They're actually pretty interesting. And my sleep has been terrific, which is good. So yeah, it's had a lot of benefits. My bowels were a little messed up here for a couple days, but other than that, no side effects, man. I feel great. It's been awesome. Now I did change from just regular steak from the grocery store, and I went ahead and bought butcher box, grass-fed, blah 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 beef. And then from a local health food store, got that too. And there's no question that grass-fed beef is a little tougher. It's not as easy to chew, or it's different. A lot better for you. So you got to weigh out, let's see, do I want hormones in there that are full of what's in those hormones, steroids and whatever else they put in these cows. And they taste great, or go with grass-fed, and it's a little chewer, quite a bit, significantly chewier, a little harder to chew, but it tastes the same, but a little tougher. I wish I could find elk meat or something somewhere, but you can't do that. So
You have to hunt that yourself.
yeah, man, we should do that, man. We'll get a cannon and go out and shoot an elk somewhere.
That I'm all for that.
That'd be cool, right?
Yeah. Why take the steps to
Yeah, man.
become a legitimate hunter when you can just get a cannon?
That's right. In a Jeep. Yeah, and just put a turret on top of it. Yeah, that would be a little unfair, but what the hell. All right, so my first car sale. So I was, as I started saying, my father owned a little Plymouth dealership in the late 60s and early 70s. And I've gone over the story a lot of times, but I came into work one day, found out, long story short, that he had sold it unbeknownst to me. And I ended up selling cars for the new owners for a certain period of time. So I had actually, now there's a twist to this story that I don't think I've ever told, and I'll start there. But while my dad still, and I've always said my dad never allowed me to let me sell cars when he owned the dealership, and that's not exactly true. There was one day, and I can't remember the exact year, and depending on who watches or listens to this podcast, they might be able to fill me in on this. Oddly enough, when I posted this show on LinkedIn, this guy that I posted a picture of myself in this suit with, bell-bottom suits, along with the used car manager at the dealership at the time, and it's a pretty crazy picture. And this guy on LinkedIn said, Canton, Ohio. And it was like, seriously, dude? Like, do I know you? How did you know this was Canton, Ohio? And we were talking, and he actually remembered me from the mid-'70s, and he could make out the background. It was kind of weird. But so what happened was my dad decided to, back then there were blue laws, so-called blue laws in the state of Ohio. You could not sell cars on Sundays. Pure and simple, it was a law. He decided to break that law and to be open on Sundays. So he advertised it, marketed it, and we were open on a Sunday. So he invited me to come in and take care of customers, wouldn't let me actually sell any of these customers, but I would, I was basically a glorified greeter with a quote-unquote suit on, and then turn it over, TO it to one of the actual salespeople at the dealership. But I remember, it was total chaos. The whole city of Canton, Ohio went into full-on freak-out mode. Somebody had ordered 100 pizzas in our name, had them delivered to the dealership. That was interesting. And there was, I think without exaggeration, probably 50, 60, maybe as many as 70 salespeople from other dealerships in town there picketing that we were open on a Sunday. And they would actually come into the dealership. I can remember sitting at a desk talking to customers, and they would come up to the customer sitting at my desk and say, "Are you really going to buy a car from this dealership and from this man on the Sabbath?" And it was a wild indoctrination into automobile sales. So, and it was just a crazy day. And since that time, and I don't know that day or this decision on my dad's part actually had a huge effect. I guess it had some effect on the blue laws being changed in the state of Ohio and being able to sell cars on Sundays. But it was back then. It was, this was a pretty crazy thing that he did. And but he figured, hey, we need the business, and this is what I'm going to do, and so he did it. But fast forward to my first actual car deal when I was an actual salesman. I ultimately got to be able to sell cars. Excuse me. One thing on a carnivore diet, I seem to be a lot thirstier. But so it was early in the morning. Gentleman walks in holding a Bible in his hand, the Reverend Wolf. Now, I think everyone listening to this probably remembers the name of their first deal, their first car sale. This happened to be the Reverend Wolf. Nice guy, real nice guy, holding a Bible in his hand. So I was the only salesperson on the showroom floor that was under 90 years old, so it was like they all scattered when they saw somebody come into the dealership with a Bible in his hand. I didn't know any better. I thought, oh, this guy's probably cool. It's the Lord's work here. So I approach him, and he ended up buying a Plymouth Valiant. Again, probably most of you don't know what in the world that is, but it was a big seller for Plymouth. That might be an oxymoron, but it was a big seller for Plymouth back in the day. So this deal took literally, as I recall, somewhere in the area of 6 hours. Now, you got to remember, this car, I don't know exactly, but the MSRP, the list price on this car, brand new, was probably somewhere around $2,200, $2,400 perhaps, something like that. Brand new car. I think the deal took about 6 hours, paid cash, or the church paid cash, as I recall. And my commission on this deal, this is the thing that always kills me. I got a lot of stories from different people, and a couple recordings that I'll play, and then we'll read some of these. And again, if you guys want to add stories into the Facebook feed, I'll read these as we go along here. I haven't looked at anything yet, but my commission. What it kills me is I hear all these car stories, and and a matter of fact, I'll play one for you. I think the guy said his first car deal paid him $1,800 or something. My first car deal was a $20 Mini. $20. $20. I can remember one month, my second year there, I sold 310 Plymouths and made $27,000, to give you kind of an idea. Now, it's all relative, because my first house, which was really pretty nice, was $26,000. So kind of it's all relative there, but I had a lot of minis, man. $20. $20. $20 doesn't buy you a pizza anymore. So different times, but it was it was brutal. It was a battle, and he was nice as could be. He was nice and actually helped me along, because I told him, I said, look, you're my first customer. Actually, he happened to be my first customer as well, my first real customer. So he actually helped me through the whole thing, was assisting me, because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. No training. It was like, when I first started, it was, okay, Craig, there's the cars, there's the keys, and there's the jumper cables in case one of the cars won't start, and go get them, pal. You're a car salesman. Ask them if they're buying today, and if I could get you that price, would you buy it, and that kind of thing. So he kind of helped me along, and for my trouble, I got $20. So I will never, ever forget that car deal. And there's in the course of my career, I sold a bunch of cars. Somewhere near 2,200 cars in the 6 years that I sold cars. So I sold a bunch, and there's a lot of individual stories. Another one, and I'm not quite sure if I've ever discussed this on the podcast or not, but I'll never forget this one. A lady came into the dealership one day. She was a nurse. Her name was Nurse Dudash. Again, never forget this. And she was as miserable as a human being could possibly be walking into a car dealership. I mean, she didn't walk in with a chip on her shoulder. She walked in with a cement block on her shoulder. I mean, like the person, and we've all probably run into this person, walks into the car dealership and say, okay, who's up? And like everyone scatters, like nobody wants to take care of this person. But she was a real type A personality, walking into the dealership, just mean, nasty, the scowl on her face, the whole 9 yards. So, of course, again, all the 85-year-old salespeople scattered, and the kid, I was 20, whatever it was at the time, 23. And so there I am in front of Nurse Dudash. And again, a long, painful day. I'm going to, as I remember back, probably, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 times she mentioned, if I end up buying this car, it's not because you sold it to me, it's because I bought it. I was like, yeah, okay. It got so bad, it got so contentious between her and I that I could have basically said anything to her. She was so mean, so nasty, and I'd come back. At that point, it was like, lady, I'm just a human being trying to feed my family here. Don't stop being such a jerk. And it was like, and I would as nasty as she would be, I'd get as nasty back. I don't advocate that, but in this particular situation, I was young and dumb and didn't know any better and just went ahead and did it. Now, I don't know, maybe that is effective, but at any rate, we end up selling her a car. She bought a Plymouth Duster. Wow, some of these cars was unbelievable. As a sidebar, I was talking to my ex-wife about a week ago, and I was trying to determine some timeline stuff, and she had, the way that I met her, I was actually a service writer at the dealership, and she had bought a new Duster, or her parents had bought it for her, I can't remember, and she came in cursing up a storm, walked up to the service desk, just unleashing, and she was so hot, so gorgeous, and I'm just sitting there, and I mean, her mouth was just a potty mouth. I actually said, "Do you kiss your mother with that mouth?" It's like probably stuff you shouldn't say to a customer, and she just unleashed it on me, and it's like, and I was like kind of laughing at her because I mean, she was just cursing up a storm and just really out of hand, and but she was really attractive. So she said, "Oh, I want to see the owner." I said, "Yeah, okay, come on, follow me." So we go up into the showroom and walk into my dad's office, and I said, "Hey, Dad, this customer here has a problem. Like, talk to you about it." When I said, "Hey, Dad," her eyes got as big as saucers. She didn't obviously know that my father had owned the dealership, so it kind of took a lot of the leverage and wind out of her sails. But it was pretty interesting. Then I ended up, and I don't advocate this, don't do this, it's not good. Ended up calling and asking her out, and then ended up marrying her, had 4 amazing children that ultimately ended up producing 5 even more amazing grandchildren. But her car, brand new, I think her car was a 72 Duster, was $1,800. $1,800. But okay, let me get back to Nurse Dudash for a minute. So, her parting remarks to me were, again, "I want you to know that you didn't sell me anything. I bought the car." I said, "Okay, that's fine. Well, happy depreciation to you, Just know that when you take delivery of this car, it's going to be worth 30% less than what you paid for it. So there. Nah. So she leaves, and it's like, guys come up to me and say, how did you not punch this woman in the face? You can't punch customers in the face. That's not cool. So time goes on. Now, to give you some additional backstory to it, my wife was pregnant with our second child at the time, Erica. And so it's time to have the baby. It's like, okay, I'm having contractions. Let's go. I said, okay. So we go to the hospital, and we go into the, not the delivery room, but just before the delivery room, and they check you out and so forth. And I'm in there with her, and these doctors and nurses are coming and going. And all of a sudden, this woman comes in, and who is it? Nurse Dudash. And it was like, oh, shit. So I said, look, Nurse, Mrs. Dudash, please, this is my wife, this is my baby. Let's not let that car deal get in the way of you taking care of things. Are we cool? And this and that. She said, look, and she had a smile on her face, which was weird. So I thought her face would crack, but it was like, hey, I'm a professional. It's all good. I'll take care of your wife and your baby. It's all good. And my heart was thumping 1,000 miles an hour. It's like, oh my God, man, I can't believe that this is the same woman, and it's going to she's going to be involved in delivering my baby. So I don't know the lesson to be learned out there. Be careful who you get in a confrontation with at the dealership. You don't know when that might come back into your actually real life outside the dealership. But kind of a couple interesting things there. Let me look through this feed here. We got a whole bunch of people talking about it. Shelly, I love the music too. Hey, Trish, how you doing? Looking good, Craig Lockard. Thank you, Shelly. Love you. And yeah, put prayers out there for Mr. Ziegler. That'd be cool. Jane's on. Melissa, Brian, Michael, Chris Walsh. How you doing, buddy? Hope you love your survival shovel. Adam and I were talking about that. Ethan, where does your podcast originate from? Is this a trick question, dude? You know where we're at. Ben Selling, Pennsylvania. Get your ass down here. And let's see. And Chris mentioned that. Let's see. Michael D. Filippo, Uncle Mike says, I'm not giving you any strokes. He said Stokes, but I'm assuming he means strokes on the golf course. And we got hello to everybody. Bison is good, Shelly. Actually, what's it called? Shelly, check with Joanne on this. She's been ordering me some bison jerky that is really terrific. And it's not crazy priced. I think, what's it called? I don't know. Get with Joanne on that. She'll be able to get that to you. It's really, really good. Anthony says, hey, happy birthday to Anthony Santangelo out there. He's the second youngest person in the car industry. He's teaching a training class right now. Hey, Jason. And hello, sir, to you. And Marty Coates. Well, yeah, Marty, you're old as dirt too, dude. I remember that model. Good morning, Rob Winters. If any of you do have car stories you want to enter in there, go ahead and do that. So, I'm going to jump around here a little bit about car stories, but they're to stay in kind of the same vein. So one day I come into work and I sell this guy, and I can't remember what the car was. I have no idea. It was a used car. And it was probably, I don't know, maybe $2,000, something like that. And this is probably 75, 76, something like that. Probably 76, maybe even 77. But at any rate, so I sell this guy a car, and we have to go to his house to pick up the cash for the car. It's a cash deal. He's going to pay cash. Got to go to his house and pick up the cash. Now, again, I'm a young, dumb salesman. I literally did not know anything. You guys got to understand here, it's like who sits before you is this very sophisticated entrepreneur, owner of this huge recruitment company, been in the car business 48 years, all the top jobs, speaker, yada, yada, yada. Hard to believe, but I was a complete moron at one time. So it was. So I just decided not to tell a manager where I was going. It was like I didn't even consider it. Just go get the money. Guy's paying cash for the car. It's like I'm doing the right thing. You go with him, get the cash. So we go to his house. I follow him. Go to his house. I walk in the house. Sketchy neighborhood. Sketchy neighborhood. Probably should have made a decision right there. Sketchy neighborhood. Decided to go ahead and do that anyway. Walked in his house, no problem. We count out the money. It's all there. It's in a brown paper bag. Let's go back to the dealership. We'll finish up the paperwork, get your receipt for the cash, yada, yada, yada. He says, great. Nothing, no red flags, nothing. Walk outside the door, literally 2 steps down out of his door. Guy comes out of the bushes with a gun. Give me the bag. And it's like, and it scared me. Obviously, there's a gun. So it scared me because there was a gun. And I see him look at the buyer, the guy that just gave me the cash, whose home we were in. And it hit me. It was all set up. like total setup. So this guy, obviously I'm not going to fight the guy over a couple $1,000s of somebody else's money. So I give him the bag. He takes off. We go back to the dealership. Guy says, look, I'm out $2,500 or whatever. So I call my managers in. They were furious with me. Furious. Didn't fully take me apart until after this was all played out, but we had to give the guy the car because he had given me the money. I'd been robbed, although this was all a setup. There's zero doubt in my mind. But the guy got me for $2,500, which on $20 minis, it took me a while to pay back that money because the dealership said, dude, you're stupid and you're going to pay back the dough. So that's what I did. So as a lesson out there, probably not a good idea to do that, or for sure check with management before you do that. You don't know what type of situation you're going into, and maybe the world's gotten better and friendlier. Not sure, but probably not the smartest move on my part, so don't do that. Along those same lines, I can remember a day sitting around, slow day. I mean, slow. I mean, it was like they're tumbleweeds going through the showroom slow. This guy comes in. Now, I'm probably, 25 years old. This guy's probably in his mid-30s or so. And he says, hey, look, I saw this car, whatever it was, in the newspaper. I want to take it for a drive. I said, yeah, that's cool. It's no problem. So we had a route, the old, 4 right-hand turn things, because car salesmen aren't that bright. So it's like, if you make 4 right-hand turns, you end up, ending up where you started from. That's kind of a joke. So we go out on a test drive that was supposed to be 4 right-hand turns. And he said, hey, look, I got a friend out in Alliance, Ohio, which is, 20 minutes-ish from Canton, maybe a little further than that. I'd like to go show this car to. I said, yeah, sure, that's no problem. Let's go. So we head out toward Alliance, and he says, hey, look, would you mind? I got to stop at, I don't remember exactly where we stopped. I think it was a dry cleaner. Yeah, one of the stops was a dry cleaner. Do you mind if we stop here? I said, no, that's fine. And then we drive another couple miles. He said, hey, do you mind if we stop here? I got to do. 4 hours later, we get back to the dealership. And, okay, come on, let's go ahead and write this thing up. Hey, you know what? I got to think about it, but thanks a lot. I'll be in touch. What I ended up, I was the original Uber driver. I was the original Uber driver, unpaid Uber driver, but I ended up taking this guy on a joyride. All I did was drive him around so he could do all his business for the day, because he had found out that he had been dropped. There was a bus stop right in front of the dealership. He'd been dropped off by a bus and used me to chauffeur him around for the day. So some of the lessons that I learned in the car business early on were pretty hard, pretty difficult, pretty costly. I don't know if something like that's ever happened to you, but demo drive's been kind of interesting. Years later, I was selling cars at a place called Friedman Buick, and it's no longer there. At the time, it was huge. It was a freaking monster dealership. And I was the only Gentile, actually, myself and the general manager in the entire dealership, frankly. And all these guys had been there forever. And I mean, when I tell you, if you didn't sell 30 a month there, you were weak. You didn't last there, period. And I had a pretty good track record of selling a bunch of cars, the only way I got hired, frankly. And, well, it didn't hurt that the general manager, a guy by the name of Ken Rinaldo, he knew my dad, and I don't know. I think he basically hired me based on that. And I had sold a whole bunch of cars prior to going up there. But these guys were like, they were something else, man. I got a couple stories about this place, but it was one day, man, young couple comes in, supposedly a married couple. They wanted to drive a Riviera. We get in a Riviera. We take out of the street, go for a drive, and I would say probably a quarter mile outside the dealership. I'm driving the car. She's in the front passenger seat, and he's in the back. All of a sudden, I feel this cold steel behind my right ear. And that was the end of a gun. And he said, pull over. I said, yes, sir. Words to that effect. He said, we're going to go ahead and take this, so be cool. I said, oh, dude, ain't my car. Okay, no problem. And they took off with the car, and like it was only about, like I said, it was about, I don't know, a quarter mile or so. Wasn't very far away from the dealership. Walked back to the dealership. It's like walk in the store, and it's like, what up? It's like, well, these people stole the car, man. They had a gun and this and that, and so I let them go. So they ended up recovering the car. It was probably a week later. It was all trashed and parted out, but they never found the people, as far as I know. But demo drives there were pretty tricky at that place, man. One day I came in, and this lady, I was probably, when was this? This was probably 78 when I worked at Friedman Buick. I had, this place was about 20, 25 minutes from the farm that I grew up on, and my parents had got divorced. My mother was living at the farm, and it was a huge place, and she needed a little help. So my wife and I and our youngest daughter, my oldest daughter now, but our only child at the time, moved into the farm. So it was a perfect situation for me being able to work there. But at this Buick dealership, in this place was a trip, man. So I'm sitting there one day, and this place actually had an up chair with a wall phone. So there were two chairs. And so the first person in one chair was the up salesperson, and the person in the second chair was the one who would answer the wall phone, which was all sales calls. That's the way it was set up. So I'm sitting there, and I'm up, and this woman walks in, and like I said, I'm in my, I don't know, late 20s or whatever, 27, 28 years old, whatever I was. And this woman was probably mid-40s, very attractive woman. And she walks in, and she asked for, this guy's name, believe it or not, was Sam Selman. Great car name, right? Sam Selman. So she asked for Sam. Sam was not there. And I told her that. I said, would you like to wait for Sam, or is there something I can help you with? And she kind of looked me up and down, and she said, no, you can help me. I said, okay. What can I help you with today? And she said, again, she was looking at a Buick Riviera. She said, yeah, I'm looking to buy a Riviera. I said, fine. And back then we had, for every 4 salesmen at this dealership, we had like our own personal porter. My porter's name was Avila Chambliss. He was named after a combination of Bobby Avila, who played for the Cleveland Indians a million years ago. But be that as it may, so I called Avila, and I said, hey, bring up stock number, whatever. And he'd bring the car up into a staging area, and we'd take the car for a demo drive. So we get about, I don't know, half a mile away from the dealership, and there's a little strip mall with a restaurant and a liquor store next to it, and a barbershop. The barbershop, that's where I used to get my hair cut, and I'd have meals there at the restaurant there. And so she said, do you want to stop in a restaurant, get a bite to eat, and have a drink? I said, no. I'm working, got to get back to work, and plus I'm married. So, yeah, no. She said, all right, well, would you mind if I go into the liquor store? I said, no. So she goes in the liquor store, and I'm driving the car, and we're driving down our demo route, and she starts knocking back these airplane size bottles of I think it was vodka. And I mean, in short order, she knocked back 3 or 4 of these things. And we're driving along, and she goes, "Oh, listen, there's somebody over at my house, and I want to show the car to, so we need to stop by my house for a minute." I said, "Okay, where's that?" And it was in Cleveland Heights. It was kind of not forever long away, but it was way out of the normal demo drive. So I said, okay. Now she's a little loopy. And so we go to her house, and I said, "Well, you can go ahead and get whoever you want to look at the car, and I'll wait here in the car." She said, "No, you can come in. That's fine." And again, I don't know, man. It's like it just didn't fully hit me. But I said, okay, so I go in the house. I sit down in a living room or something, and she said, "I'll be right back. Let me get my friend." 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes go by, and I'm like, what's up? She comes out in nothing but a bra. I was like, whoa, okay. Something like, "What do you think?" I said, "I think you're missing some of your clothes. Where's your friend? What's going on here?" Like, this is not cool. And she was somewhat embarrassed by my response, because I'm fumbling around like, what the hell's going on here? So I said, "Look, I think we better get back to the dealership." So we hop in the car, go back to the dealership. She makes some inappropriate moves on me in the car, if you can catch my drift, and move her hand away, so on and so forth. Get back to the dealership, and I'm pissed. This wasn't cool. I guess some guys could take a look at that and say it is cool, but it was not cool. It was very uncomfortable at the time. So she goes about her way. She leaves, right? And so, as you know, back then there were no women salespeople at this dealership. So it was a guy fest. It was like a bro thing. And, "Dude, what happened? Did you get laid?" Just kind of typical stuff for the time. Maybe still the same. I don't know, but. It was like, no, but I told him the story, what happened. It was like, "Oh, dude, you should have," this and that. And all of a sudden I hear this page from Kenny Rinaldo, the general manager, and not a happy "want to see you" page. It was like, Craig Locker, get in my office. I walk in his office, there's a policeman and the general manager there, Kenny Rinaldo. And it's like, okay, what's up? This woman had filed a complaint against me that I don't know. I don't think they used the word rape, but that I had tried to sexually assault her, something along those lines. I said, "No, here's exactly what happened." And I reiterated the story to the police officer and to the general manager. I said, "That's just not frickin' true. Like, even a little bit. Here's exactly what happened. Now, I probably shouldn't have done this, and I probably shouldn't have done that, but I didn't do anything she's talking about." So the policeman goes out now, and she's there in the patrol car. And so I tell the officer and general manager, and my general manager's ripping me a new one. And I said, "Dude, do I need to get a lawyer here? I don't know what to do here. This is messed up." And so the police officer goes, "Okay, let me go talk to her." Well, and this is a very sad part of the story, actually. not evidently, what happened was she had that morning had just left the doctor and had discovered that she had breast cancer and was going to need a mastectomy, and I guess she just lost it, and I just happened to be in her firing line, and she just kind of lost her mind there for an hour or so or whatever. So, and then so the police came back to me after they had found this out, apologized and this and that, and said, you can press charges. I said, no, I'm not going. No, that's not going to happen. But interesting test drive for sure. So. So we got some of those. What platform, Ethan? We are. Let's see. By platform, we are on. We're on our Facebook page at AutoMax Recruiting. We're on our YouTube channel, AutoMax Recruiting. We are on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, to name a few. And this thing gets shared out all over the flipping place. So. Selling cars in the old days, it was pretty interesting. And I don't know, looking back on it, some of the memories are pretty fond. Some of them are pretty crazy. And like I said, most of it is illegal today. I can recall when I before I started selling cars, and with the way I really learned how to sell cars was totally illegal. I'll share that with you. At the time, and I mean shortly thereafter, the wiretap laws came into play, but at the time, at this dealership, all the phones were set up and wired into the general manager's office, and he had like a keyboard, like a soundboard in his office. So when you would leave the customer, you just hit a button, and that would make the phone live, and it turned it into a recording device that would go right into the manager's office. So you leave the customer, you leave John and Mary there, and, hey, let me go check with my boss, that kind of thing. You leave, you hit the button on the phone, unbeknownst to them, everything that they're saying is going live right into the manager's office. So, you go into the manager's office and it would be like, okay, so Mary, let me handle this. Now, they offered us $1,200 for our trade. Now, we're not going to take anything less than $1,500, maybe $1,400, but, let me handle this, and that's it. So we knew their whole game plan going in. So from a inexperienced salesperson or potential salesperson like I was, the psychology of what people thought and what their game plan was very obvious to me, because we heard the whole thing when we were away. Obviously illegal. And like I said, the wiretap laws came into play here shortly after that, and they had to tear out all the wiring and all the technology, if you would, that made that happen. But it was pretty interesting in the psychology that was happening as we left the desk. What customers actually said, even if they were alone, what they would say was pretty. They'd sit there and talk to themselves, and I'm not going to pay more than $175 a month. I'm not going to pay well, maybe I'd pay $190, but no, $200, but that's the max. And I mean, stuff like that would happen all the time. So it'd be pretty interesting sitting there, because that was kind of my thing, that I would sit there and listen, because they wouldn't let me actually sell a car, actually talk to a customer. But that's kind of how I learned how to sell cars, oddly enough. It was pretty interesting. Obviously, you can't do that kind of thing today, but pretty interesting stuff. Let's see. Car salesman stories. So let me jump ahead a few years. After the new owners had taken over my dad's dealership, and I sold there for a while for them and did reasonably well, and but it just, I don't know, didn't feel right. It was kind of weird, working there. So I was Canton's kind of a small town, so it's like, people hear about other people, other salesmen and so forth. So long story short, these guys down at the Chevrolet dealership, Eppy's Chevrolet, had heard about me, I guess, and I knew some people there. And actually, the picture that we posted about this show was me in a bell-bottom suit, long hair, and looking pretty crazy looking and so forth. But the guy standing next to me, his name is Jim Bonai, and he was the used car manager. Well, he had become the used car manager at Epi Chevrolet. So he said, come on down here. I want you to sell used cars here. I said, all right, all right. So I go down there and sell used cars. This place there was barely anything that legal went on there. To get into Jim's office, you'd walk in. One morning I come in and it's like, hey, Craig, I need to see you in my office. I said, all right, dude. So I go walking in. You could not see his desk. He had boxes of, what were they? They were called, that's right. Compact. The name of the company was Compact. They were vacuum cleaners, like little vacuum cleaners. Ended up buying one. They were great vacuum cleaners. But he had somehow these vacuum cleaners, and I'm talking about, they were stacked to the ceiling. There had to be, I don't know, 100 of these vacuum cleaners in boxes. Must have fallen off a truck somehow, and they ended up in his office. And he ended up retailing them to to people, side hustle. But I mean, there was all kind of illegal stuff that went on there. So one day, and I'll come back to it because there's another pretty cute story along these lines here that I forgot to write down. I just remembered now. But so one day, I come into work, and I'm a pretty young kid, and I'd been selling a crap load of cars there. So, I became the fair-haired child at this dealership for a short period of time. So, excuse me. So the managers invite me out to lunch. Very big deal. So the general manager, the general sales manager, the new car manager, the lease manager, the fleet manager, the F&I manager, the used car manager, they all go to this place it's pretty famous in Canton, called Bender's. It's a restaurant that's been there like 150 years. Just, kind of an elitist type restaurant, really cool old place down by the courthouse and where all the lawyers' offices and so forth. Just awesome old place, great restaurant. So it was kind of a big deal to be invited to go to Bender's with the managers for lunch. So I go there, and the server comes over and she says, would you gentlemen have a cocktail? No, it's 11:30 or noon. And they all go, yeah, I'll have this, I'll have that. And I'll have that. Craig, what do you have? I said, nothing, I got to go back to work. Now, hey, have you ever had a martini? I said, no. What's in a martini? And they said, order this kid a martini. So that was my first martini. Now, let me back up a couple hours. That morning, prior to going to lunch, a gentleman came in asking for a salesperson that was not there. He was off. And asking about a car that was sitting in the junk row. It was like a car we were asking $400 or $500 for. It was I think it was what they called a 9, a Buick, a deuce and a quarter, 225, 2 + 2 + 5 = 9. So they called him, I want to drive that 9 sitting in the back. I said, okay. So I said, here's a plate, dealer tag, and here's the keys. Take it for a spin. Come on back. If you like it, I'll wrap this thing up for you. Well, I forgot about him. I just forgot about him. It was like it wasn't my customer. I was really, really busy. I just basically flipped him the keys and the tag, like I said, just take it for a test drive and come on back. And I literally forgot about him, literally. And the next thing I know, all the big shots are asking me to lunch. So I go to lunch. This guy hadn't come back yet. I don't remember the exact count, But those of you that have ever had more than 3 martinis might be able to relate to this. I was basically hallucinating. It was like doing mushrooms, man. It was insane. I I'm guessing probably 6 or 7 martinis at lunch in an hour and a half. And I was blind drunk. So instead of taking me home, they take me back to the dealership. So I go into my office and literally pass out, like asleep, out, like a light, blackout, but it was pass out. I was out. So it was, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. The lot boy comes running in my office, shakes me, and says, "Dude, you got to wake up, wake up." I'm like, what? Now I'm asleep, blasted drunk, still. I'm kind of hung. I'm like disoriented. I mean, it's like I'm like 7 martinis to the wind here. Something terrible happened. Something terrible happened. I said, "Oh, what, man? What are you doing? Leave me alone, man." No, you gotta come. So I go to the window, and here comes a patrol car, police officer. Here comes a tow truck with the car that I had given out early in the morning, that Buick. Here comes a tow truck with another car that I didn't know whose car this was, another patrol car. So we got in the lot, in the display area, we got 2 tow trucks with 2 wrecked cars and 2 patrol cars. We have 2 police officers and this guy that I had flipped the keys to the 9, earlier that morning prior to going to lunch and having these guys get me drunk. Evidently, he had gone out and gotten drunk as well with our car on the demo drive, and he was still drunk. So the police officers, in their infinite wisdom, let him out of the car. So now I'm drunk and I'm pissed off, like, what happened here? And I started calling him a bunch of names, and he takes a swing at me. Now, you got to picture this scene. So it's late afternoon. At the time, I'm like 6'3". This customer is like 5'5". I'm calling him all kinds of names. I'm drunk. He's drunk. He takes this wind-up shot at me, misses me by, one of those punches, misses me by 3 feet. So I retaliate and miss him by about a foot. And so we start wrestling and, head punching. The cops are trying to break us up. And I look and I can see, now the new car dealership was across the street. And I can see the owner of the dealership, Jerry Eppie. I don't know if he's still with us or not. This is a long time ago. Well, whatever. But he's looking at all this chaos going on at his dealership across the street in his used car department. And he's running up and down the showroom window. And I see him freaking out over there. So the cops get this guy under control, and they put him in the police car, and they take him away. They're going to arrest him for being whatever he was doing. So so I'm outside. I'm still drunk. The owner of the dealership comes over. He starts yelling at me. And I'm like, seriously? It's like, how dare you yell at me? And he's yelling at me. And I'm such a moron. I go out. First of all, you shouldn't just flip keys to a car to a customer, even back then. I go out and get drunk. The customer gets drunk. I'm fighting basically with a customer on his property. So he starts giving me a lot of heat, and I'm like, I'm in no mood for it. I'm King Kong at the dealership. I'm selling 35 cars a month, twice as many as anybody else. I'm drunk, this and that. And so he's reading me the riot act, and I said, "Hey, dude, that's the reason you got garage coverage. That's the reason you got insurance. Suck it up, big boy, this and that." And he that really lit him up. And so, something that probably the classic move that a lot of us have thought about in the car business, and some have done, and I did at that moment in time, is I took the keys to my demo out of my pocket, and I chucked them at him and hit him right in the chest with them. Oh, yeah? Well, F you. Bang. Keys in the chest. and I leave, and I start walking out of the deal, leaving the dealership. One of the guys, one of the other salesmen picked me up and said, "What do you want to do, dude? You want me to drop you off home?" I said, "No, shit, no. I'm going to a bar, man. I'm going to get lit up." So, actually, I can't really tell you the rest of the story of that night, but it wasn't good. So a few days later, I end up taking a job at Progressive Chevrolet dealership, competitor in Massillon, Ohio, Massillon to Canton. And my first month there, I sold 57 cars, so I thought it would be a really good idea, in my infinite wisdom, to send the owner, the general manager, all the management, a copy of my pay sheet, my comp sheet, and what I made on 57 cars over to the dealership, as kind of an FU. And it's like, it was like, man, really? It's like, just being a dumbass and just, it's like, well, here's what you lost. Yeah, what they lost was a moron that got drunk and hit the owner in the chest with a set of keys. So, yeah, not a cool idea. So, so that's that's what we have there. Let me. I want to play. I'm going to go over some of these here. Let's see here. I've got one from Rob Winters here. My first sale. He says, "Dear Craig, I remember my first sale. It was a '97 Volkswagen Jetta Wolfsburg edition, black 5-speed manual transmission, sold used to a 17-year-old cheerleader who couldn't drive a stick, but she was in love with the car. Gotta love cheerleaders. So my most memorable sale, however, was another used car. One evening during the week, a young girl and her dad came in shopping for her first car. We worked the process, found the right car, test drove it, and settled on terms. My sales manager," I haven't read this yet, so I don't know where this is going. "My sales manager almost took my head off when he found out we couldn't move forward without Mom. The delivery," so we had a missing party. "The delivery was scheduled for Saturday morning, and I crossed my fingers. Saturday comes, and sure enough, I see the car pull up, and the daughter jumps out and runs over to her new car. Mom and Dad get out. I walk over to meet him. My heart almost jumped out of my chest. I had dated Mom in high school." Okay. In quotes, "True story. Fortunately, we ended up on good terms, and the daughter didn't look anything like me." That's pretty good, Rob. Oh, wow. That's pretty interesting. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty funny, man. That's pretty funny. That's pretty awesome. Yeah, you gotta watch out about stuff like that. Oh man, that's interesting. So we got that one. Let's see what else we got here. I got a bunch of these. I had told people that I was gonna read some of these or play some of these online here. Here's one from Ethan Rawson. I'm gonna play this one. Hopefully this sounds okay. We'll see what Ethan has to say here. So let's go. Oops. Guess I need sound.
So I worked at a independent used car lot where you were
Okay, independent used car lot. Okay, so that's the first thing. So to start your career at an independent used car lot, wow, that's a challenge. I can remember, it brings to mind my best friend, Paul Kell, may rest in peace. I was general manager of a Cadillac dealership, Cadillac Olds dealership in Canton, Ohio, called Gump, Gumpp. The extra P is for performance, was their tagline. So, and one day this young guy comes in. He's 20. I think Paul was like 22 years old at the time. Comes in. He's got cowboy boots on, and it's like they give me his resume, and I see he works at this, beat 'em up motors, this independent used car lot. It literally was a trailer with a dirt lot, literal dirt lot with a bunch of cars there. And so, long story short, I said, hey, look it, dude, this is a Cadillac dealership. You got cowboy boots on, mud all over, I don't advocate this today, but I told him, I said, go clean up, come on back. I mean, there's a Cadillac store, come on. And I'll interview you. So he did. I hired him. Ended up not only being my best friend until his death a few years ago, but literally followed me everywhere. Him and a team that I had developed over the time. And when we switched dealerships, took over a store, he came with me, and then he worked for AutoMax for a while as well too. So great guy. But he started independent as well. So all right, Ethan, continue.
Expected as a salesperson to do everything basically cradle to grave. So from the meet and greet to the test drive to even sometimes changing the oil or shining up the tires to get the vehicle over the curb, that's what you did. Not to mention the fact that you as a salesperson also got your client their approval from the bank and went over all their paperwork. So you were switching hats from salesperson to finance manager to lube tech to recon guy. So there was
that's not unusual in the car business, especially in Ethan's a pretty young guy. I forget how old Ethan is, but he's probably, I don't know if Ethan's 40-ish, maybe not even. But, back in the day, that's pretty much what we did. That was kind of a mode of operation back in the day. We didn't have actual finance managers, until when, I don't know. Well, depending on the size of the dealership, but it was late 70s. I mean, it's like we literally, as salespeople, called the deal into the bank. We would read them the credit application over the phone to a loan expert at the bank, have a conversation with him or her, and what do you think, Craig? Think they'll pay for the car? Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, and that's kind of the way deals were bought. And then, we'd have to pitch in and get the car cleaned and so forth. So, back in the day, it was kind of unusual. So, continue on.
young woman whose first name was Dale, which is the main reason why I remember her name. It was such a unique name, but she was a local tattoo artist in the area. Who had just been in her first total loss. She was driving a little Hyundai that she absolutely loved. She was really, just upset about the whole transaction of that total loss, the accident, the losing of her car, and now, of course, having to try to find a new vehicle. So we actually happened to have a 2012 Hyundai Veloster in the inventory that someone had just traded in.
A Hyundai Veloster? Okay. Never heard of that one. Never heard of that car. Now, you guys might not know what I was talking about when I was talking about Valiants and Dusters. A Hyundai Velocity? Is that what he said? I don't know what the hell that is.
A few days before, because they absolutely hated it. It was a relatively new car. I think it actually came out in 2012, but this was black on black, low miles, and it was basically brand new. So Dale came in, and I just simply listened to her. I heard the pain in her voice from being in the accident and losing her car. So we test drove this Hyundai Veloster that we had in the inventory, and she was blown away. She's like, this is a hip car. And I remember her describing it as like, this is a tattoo artist car. And she just sort of connected with it in a way that, was really interesting to me, that that's how she saw this whole transaction. She just tried to say, this is going to be my new car. This is my new hip car, and everyone at the tattoo studio is going to love it. So we had the title. We were able to get her driving in the matter of a day, and ultimately she brought in Mom to make sure that everything was kosher and really made sense to everyone. But Mom gave the go ahead, after test driving it with Dale, and we got everything done pretty quickly. So it was an experience that I'll never forget, because it is your first, and I think everyone sort of remembers their first interaction with a customer that led to a sale. And it's such a gratifying experience that when you break down what actually went on, you really were helping someone that was in pain, that needed help. And I think that's something for me that I'll never forget. And I try to remember and teach, my salespeople now, hey, make sure you're listening to your customer. They're telling you exactly why they need to buy. They're telling you what's going on in their mind when they walk through the door, and sometimes it's just understanding what that pain is and why they are there that makes putting the sale together even easier. I always relate it to what sort of pain are they in? Where is the pain coming from? If it's a big repair, a total loss, maybe the technology isn't quite there. The same could be said, to a gentleman or
identifying a customer's pain point, very important. Tony Robbins says, and I'm paraphrasing here, we as human beings are basically motivated by only two things: avoiding pain or seeking pleasure, unless you're a masochist of some sort, I suppose. But yeah, that's a big motivator, and something in sales that we really have to think about is what is the customer's pain point, not to take advantage of them or to use that against them, but to help them and relieve that pain and direct them and lead them more to a pleasurable existence and feeling. Continue.
woman who doesn't normally do the grocery shopping, and they're at the grocery store and they're looking at 18 different loaves of bread, and their wife or their husband always buys one particular kind, but they're sold out. What in that instance do you do? Do you buy another loaf of bread and have that pain of saying, yeah, they didn't have our regular bread? How come you didn't look for it somewhere else? It's really pain management in this business sometimes is one of the biggest things that you need to learn how to deal with. So that's my story, and hopefully Craig, I'll be out there real soon. I do want to get on this show and have a great conversation with you. I most certainly appreciate, as you know, the amount of effort and time that you put into this. I greatly appreciate, and I look forward to continued episodes and continued success for AutoMax. I know you guys are off to a great start. It's everything I've heard so far. So really appreciate the time and hope everything is well, and all the best to all the fans and friends and family of the AutoMax Recruiting and Training Company. Thanks so much.
And thank you, Ethan Rawson. Ethan's a used car manager up in Massachusetts. Awesome guy and loyal follower of the show. Really appreciate it, as we do all you folks. So let's see here. I want to read just a few others here because I promised that I would. Hopefully, are you guys enjoying this? I got a whole bunch more stories here. So something that I find interesting here. This is from. Let me check this out here. 30. Oop. Nuts. Okay. Gosh, there was 21 comments on this. So I posted this in Fran Taylor's group, 30 Sales a Month. I don't know. Some of you listeners are probably part of this group. So it's called 30 Sales a Month. Fran Taylor, good old friend of mine, known him for a million years. He's the admin, and he started this group up. So I put this out there yesterday. Let me just read through some of these. Mike D. Philippus, 1971, my first car sale. You old dude, Uncle Mike. God, you're old, dude. My first sale I sold was the owner's demo, 1971 Grand Prix to Mrs. Gordon. She traded a 1967 Ford T-Bird, and my manager had to throw in studded snow tires to make the deal. Studded snow tires. I'm not sure. Are those even legal anymore? I don't think those are legal, or if they even make them. Not sure. Forgot. Gentleman by the name of, I haven't read through these, so gentleman by the name of Will Ramsey. My first sale was a 97 Avenger ES, and I was at the dealership 2 hours after close. 1st of May, 1997. Robert Dams, D-A-M-S. First sale was a Nissan Altima. A customer came in, and I knew was customer came in, and I was new and very nice. They left, and the managers yelled at me for letting them leave. 2 hours later, they came back and bought because they said I was the nicest person they had met at all the dealerships and not pushy. So, yeah. Isn't that an interesting dynamic? That's happened in the car business for years, man. It's like, no such thing as a be back, Close them now, spot them, or you're never going to see them again. There's no such thing as a be back bus. We've all, as new salesmen, I'm assuming we've all said this, gone to the manager, said, hey, they'll be back. They'll be back. And then we get all the heat from the manager going, you stupid dumbass, they're not coming back. They do come back. No, not all of them, but they do come back. I can remember sitting at Progressive Chevrolet one time, and we had a general manager there. His name was Ed Holman. He was a real character, man. I mean, a real character. He was nuts, a real character. And we had some murderers there. I mean, killers. I mean, the guys I worked with there, just about all of them either today own their own dealerships or have owned their own stores or own their own businesses, all very successful guys. And I mean, it was a murderer's row, man. I mean, it was like if you didn't sell 30 there, you didn't last. So they had hired a new salesman there. I don't know why I remember this guy's name. His name was Dan Cayley. And I was sitting in the general manager's office, and this young kid, he'd been there a week maybe on the floor. And he had come in, he had a customer, and the customer came in with some really low ball figure, and Ed had penciled the deal. And I'm just sitting there just shooting a breeze with the general manager just because. And he says to the salesman, he says, hey, look, you tell this customer to either, at that price that he's offering, to either go buy a bike or take a hike. All right, now get out of here and make this happen. So we're sitting there, we're talking. All of a sudden, we hear this screaming going back in the back offices because the salesman, Dean Cayley, had gone back and told the customer, my manager told me to tell you to either get a bike or take a hike. And customer didn't like that all that much. So Jesse Atkins, after being laid off from my factory job and not finishing college, I started reaching out to Harley dealers for a technician job in southern states. Somehow was recruited by Rick. I wonder if that's our Rick, because we used to do, but it's probably Rick Morrow, probably our guy. And after a long month of getting my ass kicked by veterans and doing all the crap work, I finally had my first sale 31 days after I started. In the snow at night, a brand new 2006 Impala SS. Whew, wow, man, 30 days to sell your first car. That's a perseverance and commitment, man. I don't know if I'd have lost my mind going 30 days without selling a car, but God bless you, dude. That's awesome. A gentleman by the name of Aaron Jersey, January 2017, guy came in wanting a $400 a month car payment on a truck. Sold him a 2.0 turbo Camaro, bumped him $100. Okay. Fran Taylor, I'm too old to remember my first sale. Fran, you're not that old, and I don't believe that for a second, dude. I'm sure you remember your first sale. Miranda Ross Smith says, my first sale was a brand new Dodge Challenger in gorgeous pearl blue. I was pretty pumped up about this, and she attached a picture to it. That's awesome. Congratulations. Ryan Trilli says, accidentally skated a veteran salesperson. Oops. Yeah, that's not cool. Let's see. la. Justin Sherb says mine was a Chevy Cruze to a guy named Johnny Walker. Come on, man. That ain't true. I'll never forget that name. Come on. Name really Johnny Walker? All right, I'll take your word for it. And our friend Andy Brewer says, my first day on the floor was a Saturday. My first sale was a lay down. Lay down meaning a easier customer. On a 98 Chevy Metro LSI in California Gold. There was actually a color called California Gold, really. It had been on the lot for 400 days. Okay, I'm guessing that was a bonus vehicle. 400 days. 400 days. Tell you what happened. When I first moved to New Jersey, at the time I was a partner in what were called turnaround deals, where we go into a dealership and install a process. We would recruit people, replace a lot of people, install a very specific sales strategy process into the dealership. And the way that we got paid is we get paid on 50% of whatever we increase the dealership's profits. Excuse me. So we had signed a couple deals, and that's where I first met a guy by the name of Bob Peters and Bobby Stevens, who has been an AutoMax recruiter trainer with us now for, gosh, I don't know how long Bobby's been with us, 14, 15 years. But we actually got him into the car business at a Chevy store down the street. But we had taken over this Ford store. It's no longer there. It was called Roughview Ford. Been there 1,000 years. And it was right on the bay near Bader Field, the airport there in Atlantic City on Albany Avenue, just coming into the city. And the lot was kind of like a peninsula, basically, and the back of the actual blacktop was like right behind it was the bay. Excuse me. So when let's see, is the statute of limitations? Yeah, the only thing that statute of limitations is never up for is murder, right? Yeah, so I'm okay with this because no one got murdered. So anytime there was a big storm coming, or there was going to be a possible flooding or so forth, they would take the old units. True story. They would take cars that had been there a long time, and they'd have the lot guys put them right on the edge of the rocks, just like a foot or so away from the bay. So the water comes up, those cars end up into the water, and the insurance company took care of the old age problem at that dealership, as it turns out. So it had been getting back to Andy's, it had been on the lot for over 400 days, and he paid sticker price. I believe I got a $150 spiff, I would hope so, and was broke as a joke. Sold 2 more that day and thought this was the easiest business ever. Monday, I got the rude awakening. Yeah. Someone wrote in my picture, nice perm. Thank you very much. Let's see. Kendall Selko, 19, first morning on the floor. I guess he was 19 years old. Sold a lady named Diane an 04 Ranger XLT extended cab, 4x2 stick shift, 2003. Tony Anthony. I started out detailing. Me too, Anthony. Being an errand boy. Me too. When I sold cars at Friedman Buick, again, like I mentioned, I was the only Gentile on the showroom floor. So Max Friedman was the elder brother. There were 4 brothers there, 3 brothers, and a cousin there running the store. And Max, they were, I don't know, $1,000 back then, $1,000 suits, custom made, handmade, literal handmade suits and shirts. And he'd hand me, I don't know, $100 bill, and hey kids, go buy some cigars. So. It was like I'd go to his cigar shop and they'd give me, for the $100 bill, like 5 cigars, I think. And I'm talking about this in the 70s. And I bring them back. So, yeah, I was an errand boy there. And he says, to continue, he says, whenever salesperson was busy, I just talked to the customers so they at least made contact with somebody. Closed 7 out of the first 10 people I spoke with. Ho! No sales experience at all. Now I'm a partial owner of my own lot. God bless you, dude. And doing 20 to 30 cars a month on a lot that's inventory is about 40. I'm at 28 for the month. That's Tony Anthony. That's a great job, dude. That's awesome. Chris Walsh, my buddy Chris Walsh, he puts a picture, black 82 Camaro Berlinetta. I remember that, with no air conditioning. And he's got a picture of the car there. It's pretty cool. My boy Chris. A Tate McKenzie 2014 F-150, big old badass truck. Can't remember the trim model, but the guy was crazy cool. I asked him what was in his backpack. Okay. I said jokingly, thousands of bucks, dude? Question mark. He said, actually, yeah. And laid down the bag, and the money fell out in stacks. That's when I definitely knew I was hooked. First pencil, no idea how to sell or close a deal. I was like, well, looks like you got enough. Les Alexander, I was in 3 years prior to this, but this was my earliest photo. I'm 50 now and have so much I could go on and on about. I will share one thing: stay abreast of the times and be willing to embrace change if you want to make a career in this industry. Man, isn't that the truth? You got to be able to be flexible and be able to change. Adapt or die, man. That is a fact. Wayne Emery, did he used to be the general manager for the Cleveland Cavaliers? No. What was his name? Emery, whatever. Sold a 2005 Honda Accord, took it as trade, and afterwards the customer says her sister will be right down to the dealership to buy her trade from the dealership. It was a great day. That is a great day. I've got some more we'll read here in a minute. Those are kind of awesome. So, but there's a lot of them here. So, hey guys, share this stuff out if you would, please. Share this bad boy out. It would be awesome of you here. So, let's see here. Where did I stop? So, some of the interesting, these are kind of interesting to me. Like I think I had mentioned earlier, at the Plymouth dealership, we had a bus stop out in front of the dealership. And I think I've told this story before, but Joe Girard, the former Guinness Book of World Record holder, greatest car salesman of all time, yada, 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 since deceased, may he rest in peace. Ali Rita and Frank Cornetti have since beaten his records in terms of volume of automobile sales. But at the time, he was it. And I'd gone and saw him speak and was all kind of pumped up about some of the things that he said and to do and thinking outside the box in terms of prospecting and so forth. So, and he didn't say this specifically, but I just kind of figured it out and thought I'd give it a shot. But there was a bus stop right in front of the dealership. So what I would do is, when it was slow, I was bored, basically bored, I'd take a stack of business cards, put them in my sport coat, suit coat, and I'd get on the bus and travel 4, 5, 6 stops down, and I'd card everybody on the bus, and anyone that got on the bus, give them a card. Hey, my name's Card Glockard. I work at the Plymouth dealership. Need a car? Know anybody else? Come see me. I'll hook you up. Words to that effect. And then I'd go down like 4, 5, 6 stops, and then, come back. I'd get off the bus, get another bus back, do the same thing on the way back. So, and I got deals from that. It was crazy. Another thing we did, I may or may not have discussed this on the show at some point in time. There's a thing called Secretary's Day. I don't even know if they have that. That's probably not politically correct anymore, but they used to have a thing called Secretary's Day. I don't know if they still do. Someone might put that in the comments. They might do. I don't know. Speaking of comments, you guys want to, if you want to put in one of your war stories in there, feel free. That would be cool. So on Secretary's Day, so what I did was, there was a florist on 12th Street in Canton, Anderson's Florist. Gosh, this carnivore thing is really helping my memory. So I go down there and made a deal with him, and I bought a crap load of carnations. I don't know how many it was, probably at least 100. Might have been more, but it was at least 100 on Secretary's Day. And what I did was literally go in downtown Canton, go into a business, go into an office building, and asked for any secretary, and I'd hand them a carnation, happy Secretary's Day, here's my business card, if I can be of any help, yada, yada, yada. and I'd leave, go on to the next one. Started at, I don't know, 10 in the morning, something like that. Did it all day, and I'm like on foot and hitting every business in downtown Canton, which is kind of a small area. At the time, it was actually a real town. It's kind of moved out a ways there, although I haven't been back in a few years, so maybe it's coming back. I don't know. But I ended up on the south end of town, and by that time I'm kind of groggy. I'm worn out. It was warm. I had, I don't know, a dozen wilted carnations left, and I'm pretty worn out. And it's like, okay, like this is my last stop, man. I'm done. So I walk into this building. I had no clue where I was at. I'm assuming there was signage on the building. I didn't pay any attention to it. So I walk in. There was an elevator up to the first few floors. There was like nothing there. So it was a fourth or fifth floor, whatever it was. And I go up there, get out of the elevator, go to the end of the hallway, open this door, and there's a young woman sitting there. And it's like, hey, happy Secretary's Day. My name is Craig Lockard. I sell cars at, and yada, yada, yada. Here's my card. You know, can help you with anything. And it's like, now, I'm a little loopy. It's like 4 o'clock in the afternoon. She was kind of cute. So I was like, I'm going to, just kind of relax here and chitter-chatter with her for a minute. And all of a sudden, this guy busts through this door that was off, I don't know, 5 or 7, 8 feet from her desk. And like, who are you? What are you doing here? Leave my employee alone, yada, yada, yada. I said, hey, dude, relax. It's Secretary's Day. Here's who I am. I gave him a card. Here's what I do. I've taken the day, wanted to wish all the secretaries in town a happy Secretary Day, trying to drum up business, frankly. And, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, no offense, didn't mean anything bad by it and this and that. And he said, so who are you again? What do you do? Well, I was in the Canton Department of Transportation, as it turns out. And relatively long story short, ended up within, a lot of them had to be ordered, but had wrote an order for 60-some vehicles for the Department of Transportation. So they were all very small deals because it was kind of a fleet deal, but pretty effective way to prospect. And I don't know why things like that, maybe not exactly like that, why they can't be done today. I mean, social media is terrific. It's awesome. But if you talk to and you really look at salespeople like Ali Rita or Frank Cornetti or the top performers, the people out there that are legitimately selling 4, 5, 6, 700 cars a year, or like these gentlemen, they're selling, 12, 13, 14, 1,500 cars a year. They're not doing it all on social. They're using Facebook, no question about it. But what these people do and what top performers do is they get into their community, IRL, in real life, and they're shaking hands, kissing babies. They're involved in charities and in different situations within their community. And that's, if you want to be a true top performer in the automobile business, there's a lot that goes into it. But it's not, you're not going to sell 1,000 cars a year. You're not going to sell 1,000 cars a year. Of selling a car, taking a picture of you, the car, and the buyer, and posting on Facebook. Hey, if you need a car, come and see Craig. That on its own is not going to sell you 1,000 cars a year, 500 cars a year. Probably not going to sell you 200 cars a year. You got to get out in the community. You have to touch people. You have to be part of the community. That's where the buyers are. So probably should kind of go that way. Get back to some sales-related things here before I move into management here. Hopefully you guys are having fun with this thing. Let's see, sales. Where did I sell here? I'm probably a little out of order here. You're out of order. You're probably a little out of order here, but let's see. What does that say? Oh, yeah. We'll save that one. So, when I first moved out of Canton and moved up north, before I started working at the Buick dealership, I'm not going to name the organization because it's a pretty bad story, but I worked at this Dodge dealership on the east side of Cleveland for exactly 30 days, 1 month. And in that month, I sold exactly 30 cars and made a little over $10,000. Now, this is in 1977? No, I'll change. 78, I think. Whatever, 77 or 78. This place hired me on the spot, and I go to work, and I'm selling cars like candy bars. They had a very specific sales strategy, and I'm crushing it and outselling everybody. And let me back up. I sold there for 30 days. I worked there for 33 days. As the month comes to an end, I get my washout, I get paid. And back then, I mean, that's a lot of money. 10 grand plus a lot of dough. That's a lot of money now, but it was an enormous amount of money then. And I'm sitting at my desk one day, and this guy walks in, said, and he was pissed, and said, my payment was supposed to be $250 a month, and it's $390. What's this all about? I don't know. Let me check. I go to check with the F&I manager. He's out to lunch. Says, "Look, I'm going to have to get to the bottom of this. I really don't know, sir. But I'll get back to you. I'll try to figure it out." 15, 20 minutes later, a couple of man and wife come in. Similar story. Got my finance papers in the mail, my payment book and statement in the mail, and it's $150 more a month. 2 hours later, a third one comes in. Next day, I got two separate customers waiting for me as I come in the morning. Hot. I mean, total heat cases. Go to the F&I manager. I said, "Dude, what up?" So what the mode of operation was there is they signed everybody on blank finance agreements. Blank. No numbers. Sign here. We'll fill it in later. Blank. Would you want your payment to be? Yeah, $250. Fine. Okay, good. Sign these. We'll get final approval, and we'll mail you the paperwork. Complete scam. Total scam. So, I mean, to sell 30 cars there you'd have to be an idiot not to sell 30 cars there. I mean, it's like, because it was all illegal. It was all bullshit. It was smoke and mirrors. So I go to the general manager. I said, "Dude, do you know what's happening here? It's like we're signing everybody up on blank finance agreements. It's like, I mean, this is theft. Like, thanks for the 10 grand or whatever it was like 10.8 or whatever. Thanks, but I'll see ya. Bye." Tim McKelvey was this general manager's name, as a matter of fact, just hit me. Probably shouldn't have said that. But at any rate, so he was all freaked out. He liked me, I guess, and had plans for me and to move me into management. There's a real big organization, dealer group. So I said, "Yeah, dude, I see ya." So I drive home. This guy knows where I lived, and at the time, again, like I said, I lived on the farm that I grew up on, so he follows me out to my house, like trying to convince me to come back to work there and this and that. And I think, I don't know, at first I thought, well, this guy, really thinks I'm awesome, and it's true that he wants me to become a manager there and this and that. I think the real thing is he didn't want me involved in any potential lawsuit that the dealership might come across. But I mean, like, wow, man, blank finance agreements, blank contracts. Things change in our business. You can't do that stuff anymore, that's for sure.
First I thought, well,
So,
this guy-
yeah, can't do that stuff. So, I don't know if you guys experienced this. I don't know if this still goes on. Well, no, I'm not naive enough to think it doesn't still go on, but drugs in the car business were huge. We went through, I mean, drinking back in the 70s was big. Then we graduated to cocaine, and it was big. So in 1979, I worked for Greenwald Chevrolet. That's where I started my management. And I got a bunch of stories there, and I'll put them all together here, but and it'll eventually get to drugs. But I saw an ad in the paper for a closer position. Frankly, now this is going to sound stupid. I had no idea what a closer was. I really had no idea, but I knew it was some sort of management position, supposedly. So I went and interviewed, and general manager, a guy named Fred Gerard, was a trip. God rest his soul. This dude was a trip. So he hired me. I go back home and, honey, I got good news. I'm a manager. I got hired. Really? What are you? I'm a closer. What's that? I really don't know. I guess I'm closing deals. I said, well, what's your pay? I don't really know. It was about $30,000 less than the year before that I sold cars, so as it turns out, but the end of the story is pretty good. So I started there, I don't know, let's say it was a Monday. I started there, and it's 9:30 in the morning, and a salesperson had been there like 100 years. His name was Herb Holly. Herb had been there forever. As it turns out, Herb had never, ever, we had a very, very, very specific sales strategy there called APB, Automotive Profit Builders. I mean, it was dot I's, cross T's, very specific, very hardcore selling system. At the time, it was the thing. And we were right on target with it. But there were a couple sacred cows there that didn't have to follow the system. They had been grandfathered in, been there forever, and just plug them in, and they sold their 20 cars a month or whatever. Herb Holly was one of those guys. So I'm walking out of the restroom. Herb grabs me and he said, hey, kid, I got a customer I want you to talk to. Now, I didn't know it at the time, but this was no manager had ever talked to one of Herb's customers. He didn't tell anybody. So I go in and I meet this. So I'm all pumped up. I'm 20, whatever, 8 years old, and I'm ready to rock and show everybody how strong I am. So I sit down, and we're on this. If it's 1978 at this time, Herb's got this guy landed on a brand new 1976 Chevy Impala 6-passenger station wagon, no air, tan vinyl seats in green, which at the time was no-sell green. Been there 2 years. I said, well, now I'm really going to show my stuff because, man, I'm a selling fool. I can close anybody on anything. So I sit down with this guy, and it's a 3-hour deal, 3 hours of negotiations. Guy ends up, we make a deal. Customer loves me. Herb's standing over there with this weird grin on his face. And I'm like, I'm proud, man. It's like, I just got rid of a 2-year-old new car. Like, are you kidding me? So, to validate the general manager's great hire of me, I went in his office, said, "Yep." So I throw the deal folder down on it. Yep. Closed the first customer I got today. Oh, really? Yeah. Whose deal? Herb Holly. He said, Herb Holly? Well, he doesn't TO his deals. I said, well, new sheriff in town. Guess he wanted to see what I got. I got a lot, man. I sold this piece of junk been laying around here, a brand new. If you believe it or not, we got a brand new. It was a pretty big store. I mean, we had, I don't know, 500, 600, 700 cars in stock, whatever it was. This thing been laying around here for 2 years, man. Some fool ordered this car, got no air, vinyl seats, 6-passenger, ugly. Been here 2 years. 2 years. And I, King Kong, just closed it. He looked at this thing, looked at me, looked down at it, looked at me. And his veins in his neck into his forehead literally thought they were going to pop. He turned red as a beet. And he screamed when he talked anyway, and he went off on, "You dumb ass. Are you kidding me? You sold my effing advertiser? You dumb shit. You know what you just did?" And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Well, this is a bait and switch car. So this car was advertised in the paper at like stupid money. It was ordered specifically to never sell, to bait people in, and to switch them off on other vehicles. I didn't know. I wasn't aware of that type of marketing at the time. And so he didn't let up. He literally told me, he said, "Dumbass, all right, here's what you got to do. From now on, you stupid moron, you go into the men's room to take a leak. I want you to page me. Tell me when you're going in there to make sure after you're done and you shake, you don't get pee all over your trousers. You got that?" What? "I'm not shitting you. That's what you do." And he was serious. And so I never made that mistake again. But that was my first deal that I closed there. We had our advertising practices there were pretty unique. We would order at the time they were called Chevy Chevette scooters. A scooter was a 2-passenger Chevette with rubber mats on the floor, and there was no carpet. It was a rubber mat. There was no back seat. I mean, it was cheap. I think. I mean, there's I don't know, $2,000 car or whatever it was, brand new. So when one would be dropped off, the lot kids were instructed to go out. They'd ice pick the tires, take a hammer to the windshield, crack the windshield, scrape it up a little bit, and then we put it in the paper at a stupid price, actually a loser price, an actual real loss. Again, another bait and switch car. And so I can remember a guy coming in, and now this is, I had taken over as general manager of the dealership, and the practices were still in play. And this guy comes into my office and says, "Hey, look, I know what you're doing. I know that, this is and he used the term bait and switch car." He says, I don't have any problem with that." So what we did was we would take what were called second orders. So the line was, Adam, we have know you want to buy this car. We already have an order written on it, but we don't know if the deal's going to go through or not. We can take a deposit as what we call a second order. So in the event the first deal doesn't go through, it would be your car. Fair enough? And they go, yeah or nay, whatever. And we had like 50 of these things. And so the guy said, "Look, I don't care what you do. It doesn't matter to me. Ultimately, you're going to have to end up selling this car. So I'd like to," he said, "what's your biggest deposit?" I said, $50. He said, "I'll give you a $100 deposit. I just want your assurance that when you're done advertising the car that I can buy the car for this price." So I said, "Yeah, okay, that's fair. We'll write you up like that." So So that's kind of what happened there. Hey, guys, if you guys would share this stuff out, sure would appreciate it. That'd be awesome. So this dealership, this place was a treat, man. It's like, yeah, so drugs were pretty prevalent. I had so I became general manager there. It was a pretty interesting night. We had a big Christmas party, and these Christmas parties were out of hand, out of hand. They were held at a place called the Tangier Restaurant in Akron. It was pretty, at the time, pretty fancy place, very fancy place at the time. I think it's still there. I'm not 100% sure. They'd rent out the whole restaurant, and it was a pretty big store, so there probably was, I don't know, with spouses and all, maybe a couple hundred people at this Christmas party. It was a big, fancy, very expensive affair. It was first class. So I go, and there's actually a picture of this somewhere online, but because, and the reason it's kind of unique is Jared Conover, who's an AutoMax recruiter trainer, matter of fact, a senior AutoMax recruiter trainer, he's been with us, I think, 19 or 20 years. Jared's been with us. He was actually one of the new car sales managers there, and I actually ended up working for him. He kind of taught me management there at the dealership. And there's a picture of him, myself, Fred Gerard, the general manager, and another sales manager there by the name of Blake Rawson. And we're all sitting there with our wives at dinner that night, and the owner came up to, give his speech. And unbeknownst to everybody, and then guys from the factory were there, guys from the bank, so forth, who the floor plan, and like every employee and their spouse or significant other, as it would be. And he makes the announcement that he's turning the dealership over to his. Now, her and I were the same age, so I was 29, I guess, at the time. That he was turning the dealership over to her, and she was the title clerk. So it was a pretty big surprise to everybody. And the general manager and his wife, who were sitting there across from my wife and myself and the other managers at the table, gets up, reaches over, shakes my hand, and says, "Congratulations. I'm sure you'll end up being the new general manager. I'm out." And he gets up and he leaves and he quit. And so everybody was, stunned, to say the least. My wife was pretty pleased, and I was somewhere in my psyche kind of excited about the whole thing, because I was wondering how I'd ever advance at that dealership into the general manager's position, but this just kind of fell in my lap. So Monday morning, I show up. Sure enough, they call me in, say, "You're the new GM, have at it. Here's what we expect. Here's what you got to do. Here's what you're responsible for, yada, yada, yada. Let us know if you need any help." And at 29, running this size store, I was not really ready for this. But as most of us do in the car business, we just go ahead and persevere and go ahead and muscle our way through it and kind of learn as we go. And this place was a crazy place. It was crazy. Out of the... Oh, wow. I don't know how many salespeople did I have there at its peak. Probably 40 or 45 salespeople. And I would guess to say that probably out of those 45, I would guess maybe 30 plus were daily cocaine users. I mean, you go to use the restroom, and in the stalls there'd be a line of Coke on it. There were like these where the toilet paper was. The dispensers were like these chrome dispensers with a flat top, and go in there'd be a line of cocaine in there set up for somebody else. So, I mean, these guys were ripped. I'd come in the morning and they'd be, on their desk, and it's like, oh, wow, man, and it would like. The used car department, it was a separate used car department, and I think I had, 14, 15 used car salespeople out there. And we had probably at any one time a couple hundred used cars on the ground. And these guys, I don't care if it was 5 degrees out and a foot of snow, or 90 degrees out, in steaming sun, didn't matter. These guys go out at least once a day and move 200 used cars. They'd move them. It was like bumper cars out there, man. Like my body shop manager was thrilled because he knew he was going to get, you know, $10, $12, $15,000 worth of repairs like every time they moved the lot. I mean, these guys literally would just bounce cars into each other. They were so high, so messed up. It was craziness, constant craziness. These guys were nuts. And it's, well, Craig, why didn't you stop that kind of nonsense? Don't have a good answer. They sold a lot of cars, made a lot of money. Just kind of let it go. Turn the other way. Not good. One morning I walk in. The receptionist says, Mr. Lockard, you got to call the Barberton Police Department, Sergeant so-and-so. I said, why? She said, I don't know, but he called looking for you and said it's important that you give him a call. So, okay. I go up in my office. They had this enormous glass office that was like overlooking the showroom. It was like, you know, pretty elitist type of office for sure. And so I could kind of see everything that was going on. So I go up into my office, call the sergeant, whatever, the Barberton Police Department, and he said, I have, and I noticed that, I mean, it was early, but there wasn't a lot of salespeople in the place. So I was like, what up? So he said, I have 12 of your salespeople down here. I said, you do? Meaning at the Barberton Police Department. I said, you do? What for? He said, well, drag racing. I said, drag racing? He said, yeah, they were drag racing up Worcester Avenue. Now, what makes this story funny is that I knew what I was dealing with. So all the complete whack jobs that worked for me at the time, back then, everybody got a demo. Like, everybody got a demo. So I put all these guys, all the real questionable characters, in those Chevette scooters that I alluded to before. So, I mean, these cars didn't have actual governors on them, but these cars would not go over 60 miles an hour. Just unless it was downhill for like 5 miles, then, you know, at like a 90-degree angle, they'd pick up speed. But flat ground, 60, 65, maybe. So to envision 12 knucklehead, cocaine-filled used car salesmen driving up this pretty busy street, drag racing these Chevettes, it struck me as kind of funny. So I had to go down and bail them out, and then of course read them the riot act when we got back to the dealership. But this place was. I'm sitting in my office one morning. And this customer comes in and says, I'm so-and-so. I bought a whatever here 6-7 weeks ago. It was like an $800 car. He said, I haven't received my title yet. I said, well, no problem. Let me check in there for you. Well, just sit tight for a minute. So I go down to the title clerk and said, so-and-so's here, hadn't got his title yet. And wondering what's up, if you could check it out and see what's up. She said, well, you're going to need to talk to your used car manager. I said, why do I need to talk to my used car manager? I'm talking to you. You're the title clerk. This guy paid for a car, doesn't have his title. What up? I said, you need to talk to your used car manager. I said, okay. I go up and talk to Ed, my used car manager. I said, dude, got a situation. Person bought a car, $800, $800 some dollars. Doesn't have the title. He says, I said, I went to the title clerk. She said, I should check with you. What's up? He said, I'll take care of it. I said, what do you mean you'll take care of it? I said, I'll take care of it. I said, gonna have to talk to me like you know me here, dude. What's up? He said, well, I got the money. I said, why do you have the money? He said, well, I have the money. I said, how'd you end up having the money? Well, the guy paid cash, and I needed the money, and I took the money. Oh, I see. So you stole the money. Yeah. Okay. Go get the money. And I sent another salesperson with him. I said, go get the money and come back. We'll sit down and talk. He goes, comes back, gets the money, receipts it. I said, how many more of these are out there? He said, 6, 7. Awesome. So I go to the owner. I said, look, here's what's up. What do you want me to do? I said, got to fire the guy. He said, nah, does a good job. Does a good job. I don't want any lawsuits. That could get tricky. This and that. I said, dude, the guy's stealing from you. Come on. But that's just the way things went back then. As a matter of fact, this same guy, I'll never forget, we had this enormous conference room, huge conference room. I mean, this conference room was so big. I had a salesman there by the name of Sam Kennedy. This guy was a complete whack job, been there forever. He would the guy could ride a unicycle, and when he didn't like what I was saying at one of our meetings, he would go get the unicycle out of his office and had one of those big rubber horns on it, and he would do his unicycle down the row while I was talking, beeping his horn. Craziness. So one day I'm walking the used car department. I'm looking for my used car manager. I open the door to the conference room, and bang, there he is having sex with one of the greeters. We had greeters there, typically younger women, girls, that would meet and greet the customers. It was a huge lot, and they would meet them and then log them into our system and then turn them over to a salesperson. He's having sex with one of these girls. So ultimately, I had to let both of them go based on that little thing. And I mentioned a minute ago when I became general manager that night at the Christmas party, just to give you a little additional backstory to that, when the daughter was working in the office, I had a salesperson there by the name of Harder March. Pretty good salesperson. Nice guy. And I had caught wind somehow that he had played tennis with the owner's daughter. So I called him in the office and read him the riot act. It's like, dude, that's a no-no. Just forget about it. Don't do that, period. End of story. I'll fire your ass. Blah, 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 blah. Just, that's it. No more of that. You're not going to fraternize with the dealer's daughter. That's it. End of story. Beat it. Go sell a car. Little did I know that they'd been seeing each other for a long time. They ended up getting married. He ended up owning the dealership, co-owning the dealership with her. So it's like, oops. So yeah, that was pretty crazy. That dealership was pretty nuts, man. And the time was crazy. There was a day that I walk into the dealership and salesperson sitting in my office, and all downtrodden and just hung over bad. They're like, well, what's up, dude? He said, my demo got stolen last night. I said, oh, really? I said, well, that's interesting. I said, how'd your demo get stolen, dude? I don't know. I said, what do you mean? What do you mean you don't know? It's just I was at this place and I came out and the car was gone. I said, okay. So he was one of the top salesmen at the place, and he had and we did it kind of by a combination of how sober they were, how crazy they were, how long they had been there, how they performed, and so forth. Would kind of dictate. It was a really wacky way to dictate who got what to drive. But he was driving a Chevy. What are those called? Classic Impalas, the nice ones. It was a tricked out car. It was the same car I was driving. So he drove that. Dave Burrell was his name. And geez, I wonder if any of these guys are getting after me about naming their names. Whatever. So he's sitting there, and it's like, okay, man, I'll get back to you. So, and I think if Jer Conover is listening to this, he'll remember this story, I think. And I'm not sure. I think it was Jer that found out somehow. He did some detective work. What actually happened was this dude, this salesman had gone out, gotten whacked, gotten drunk, gotten in an accident, and thought it a good idea rather than to just take his lumps with, I got drunk, got in an accident, my bad, to go ahead and bury the car in a quarry under 60 feet of water. Just drove the car in, let it go in, sink to the bottom of the quarry when we finally found the car. But, yeah, pretty crazy, man. Pretty crazy. We had a special a loan company, Barclay Financial it was called at the time. They would make us side loans on cars, like side loans, and the salespeople, the whatever he was called, loan officer, the manager at this particular branch took bribes. So one of our salesmen found this place, found this guy, and buddied up with him. And I forget what it cost. I don't know. It cost like $50 to get a deal put together, or something, in cash to this loan officer. So these guys were constantly bringing customers down to this guy. And I mean, these people, there's no way these people should have been able to buy a car, but they were making these side loans, man. And sometimes they get them more than one. I remember one day I'm sitting in the showroom, and this younger girl walks in, and I mean, full-on crocodile tears, man. I mean, she's crying, and she's got a stack of paperwork in her hand. They were 5 payment books. 5. They'd all arrived within a 2-day period of time. We had gotten her 5 side loans as down payment, and then the originating note for the full payment of the car, man. And she was like devastated. It was like brutal, just brutal stuff. And it was like, well, you wanted the car, this is the payment, it's if you add them all up, we told you what it was. Brutal stuff, man. Brutal stuff. Let's go to another. We had one call in here. Let's see here. Where is this one? Hopefully you guys are enjoying this. Put this stuff out there. Share all this good stuff. Come on, man. Where is this one? How was this? Was this text to me? I can't remember here. Anthony, Joanna, dog trainer, Ernie, Joe, Jody, Danielle, Adam, Craig Nichols. Where the heck is this one, man? Bradley. Yeah, I think this is it. So this is from Bradley Ingalls. See if we can.
I actually came through an AutoMax training course.
Let me start him again. Hold on here.
And when I got hired on to the dealership,
Hold on.
they finally let me sell a car.
We're professional here. Hold on.
My very first sale in the car business, I actually came through an AutoMax training course back in 2003. It was a 5-day training class. And when I got hired on to the dealership,
they finally let me sell cars. I forget, the Monday, Tuesday after that. And I was actually in the dealership. I was on the phone. I was talking to my wife on the phone. And I saw this Harley Davidson motorcycle. Guy had gray hair, it was a ponytail all the way down to his buttocks. He had a very large lady sitting on
Buttocks. Oh, shit. Sorry, shoot.
my very first sale in the car business. I actually came through an AutoMax training course back in 2003. It was a 5-day training class. And when I got hired on to the dealership, they finally let me sell cars. I forget, the Monday, Tuesday after that. And I was actually in the dealership. I was on the phone. I was talking to my wife on the phone. And I saw this Harley Davidson motorcycle. Guy had gray hair, it was a ponytail all the way down to his buttocks. He had a very large lady sitting on the back of the motorcycle, and she was holding a very large gift wrap package out to the side when they pulled up onto the lot. Now again, I'm inside the dealership. This is a dealership with 21 other salespeople in the store. About a minute later, I was still on the phone. Nobody had gone up to help this guy. So I hung up the phone with my wife. I walked out front. There was 7 salespeople sitting out on the golf cart on the front picnic bench we had out there. They were all smoking cigarettes, talking whatever. And I asked them, I said, is anybody going to go help him? They said, nope, he's all yours. So he had parked himself with his Harley all the way at the top of the lot where the F-250 diesels were. And I walked up and introduced myself and eventually found out that he was there to get a to get a truck for his motorcycle because he was going to Bike Week down in Daytona Beach. Didn't want to ride his bike all the way down there. He was going to get himself a trailer. He was going to pull it down. Well, obviously, he did not need a Super Duty diesel to do so. So after doing a proper fact-finding qualifying with him, I found out that he really just needed a Ranger. Turned out he just needed a 2-door, regular cab, 2-wheel drive, no thrills Ford Ranger, which we had in stock. Color didn't matter. Probably about an hour and 15 minutes later from the time that I first shook his hand, he had agreed to do business. He bought the motorcycle. He was at a dilemma because he didn't want his wife to drive his motorcycle home, nor did he want her to drive the truck home. So he parked the bike, took the truck home, got a trailer, came back with the trailer, put the bike on the trailer, and then took both of them off the lot. 21 other salespeople there had the opportunity to sell him. 21 other people judged the book by its cover, thought he was there just to stretch his legs or waste time.
Yep. Well, that's the end of that. But the basic, and thanks, Bradley, for sending that in. Don't judge a book by its cover, boys and girls. Don't judge a book by its cover. We talk about it at AutoMax a lot. And it happens every single week. With the tens of thousands of people that we put into car dealerships in North America, it happens a lot. It's like, nah, man, you didn't invite that. What are you talking about? This person can't. Look at the way she looked. Judging a book by its cover. Bad idea. Bad idea. When I was the general manager of Greenwald Chevrolet, there was a day that, hot summer day, and the way it was physically set up, if you can picture this, a huge new car showroom. Front door, right next to the front door was the full dealership receptionist, and then 10, 12, 15 feet away from her was a podium with one of the greeters she was the showroom greeter. We had other ones specifically placed around the dealership. Behind her was 4 of the senior salespeople, 2 wall phones, and I think 3 chairs for the first 3 people that were up. And we were on a legit up rotation based on the previous week's business. My thought, having the quote-unquote top salesman at the top of the rotation every day, not unlike a baseball lineup where you have your best hitters, 1, 2, 3, 4, so they get the most at-bats, the most opportunities, that kind of thing. So I'm up at my big glass office overlooking, doing whatever. And out of the corner of my eye, I see this young girl walk in the showroom, no shoes, tan, Daisy Dukes, if you would, midriff shirt, blonde hair, back in a ponytail, and stunning to look at, frankly. And the whole place stopped. Like no one had ever seen a girl before. And it's like, I mean, this young girl was so hot that, I mean, even the girls were like, couldn't move. She was like over the top. So she walks in, no one moves. No one says hello to her, no one approaches her, no one greets her, no one moves. Everyone's just gawking at this poor girl. She walks over to, and I had a Corvette. Most of the Corvettes were buried and hidden in the new car inventory. I had one Corvette on the showroom floor. It was just outside the waiting area, service waiting area, right next to the new car offices, which were pretty large because we had 2 new car managers there. On one side of the Corvette, on the passenger driver's side of the Corvette, and on the passenger side of the Corvette, about 10 feet away from there, were the salespeople, the podium with the greeter. And she's walking around this Corvette. It's blue. And she's walking around, and literally no one's making a move. So I'm calling down. I call on the wall phone, and it's like no one's. It's like, so I picked up the phone and broadcast over the intercom system, somebody answer the wall phone. So I hang up. I ring back. The greeter comes over. She answers. I said, you better go over and greet this person and take a salesperson with you. She'd been here 5 minutes. Everybody's standing around just gawking at this girl. Take care of it now. By the time she hung up the phone, this girl's walking outside the door. And I'm hot. And I am pissed. So, and I let it go. We were busy. You guys probably know the rest of where the story's going. Next, late morning, Corvette pulls up, blue, in front of the showroom. Girl gets out, dressed up, stops at the receptionist's desk. The receptionist points up to my office. I'm going, you got to be kidding me. She walks up, knocks on my door. I'm so-and-so. Are you the boss? I said, yeah. I said, and I know where you're here. She said, well, yeah, I was here yesterday, and I didn't get taken care of. And I went down to a dealership called West Chevrolet. I think West Chevrolet was in Talmadge, not that far from Akron. And I bought a new car, new Corvette, sitting right there. See it? I said, yeah, I see it. This girl turned out to be the first $1 million lottery winner in the state of Ohio. Unbeknownst to anyone. It was kind of like the scene from Pretty Woman, right? When she couldn't get taken care of, and she comes back all dressed up and bags of $1 zillion worth of stuff. What was the line? Do you remember me? You didn't take care of me? Big mistake. It was kind of like that. That was prior to the movie coming out, I'm thinking, though. I don't know, I forget. But yeah, so, and then me and my sales team and the greeters, we had a real good old beating session in the meeting room there for a while, talking about that. And you can't judge a book by its cover. My goodness sakes. If we in the car business can't figure that out by now, we got some serious problems, man. If you're doing that, if you're listening to this, if you're in charge, or if you're not, if you're in charge, stop judging a book by its cover, whether it be a new hire or a customer. If you're a salesperson, a service advisor, anyone that comes in contact with people, gotta stop judging them by the way that they're dressed, look, talk, what have you. Man, you're gonna screw up a whole bunch of times. It's just stupid. It's just stupid. Stop judging people, because you'll be wrong a lot of times. You're wrong the other way, man. the man or woman that looks like they can buy and they have it all going on, a lot of times that's just for show, man. It's like, Instagram models with filters and all these people, sitting on private jets that they pay whatever, rent them for $300, $400, take a couple pictures on the jet, make them look like they own a jet. They don't own a jet. So we can get confused on that issue pretty damn quick. So, let's be aware of that. So, gosh, I could go on and on, man. I'm not sure I've told this story on air or not before, but I was at Progressive Chevrolet one day, and a young woman comes in by a car, and we had believe it or not, we had a Pinto on the front row. A Pinto on the front row. Just got out of detail, it was red. She wanted to drive the car, said okay, so we take the car out for a drive, planned route. We're out driving the car, switch drivers, she's driving on the way back, and I look out and there's a little bit of smoke coming out of the hood. Now, my first thought was back then we used to paint the engines. That was a thing in full detail. We'd paint the valve covers and paint the engine. So I'm just thinking it's some of the paint burning off. No big deal. It's happened before. Then I noticed we're luckily, pretty close to being back at the dealership. We're probably, a quarter mile away from the dealership or so. And I see the paint starting to bubble just a little bit on the hood of the car. I said, let's get this thing back in. And now there's a lot of smoke coming out. We pull back into the dealership. She said, do you want me to pull it back in? I said, nah, just leave it here. And, I'm going to have somebody take a look at it. We turn the car off, and there's a lot of smoke coming out now. We're walking. We're probably, 40, 50, 60 feet away. Yeah, probably closer to 60 feet away from this car. And all of a sudden, kaboom, man. This thing freaking explodes right behind the front line of the dealership, takes out 2-3 cars in the front line, a couple cars in the second row, and just explodes, man. And it's a big ball of fire. There's 3 cars on fire, and it's busy. I think it was a Saturday, and there's customers there watching this debacle going on. This car's on fire, and I'm standing there watching it, salespeople, customers, this and that, and the general manager, this crazy guy I talked about earlier, he comes out and goes, where's your customer? I said, are you effing kidding me? Where's my customer? She left, dude. The freaking car she just drove blew up, man. And he's like yelling at me because I let a customer leave. I said, the freaking car blew up. The car blew up, dude. Oh, my goodness, man. My goodness. Things are crazy, man. Things are crazy. Things are crazy. Irate customers. Whew. When I ran that Chevy store, I was a used car manager at the time. It was kind of a wacky setup, but the used car manager was kind of second in command. You had the general manager, then the used car manager. So they would move me into the used car manager role. And we sold a crap load of used cars at a lot of profit. And so I'm running the used car department, and we sold everything as is. Everything. Car could be a year and a half old. It was as is. We sold nothing with a warranty. We'd upsell them in a warranty. Every single car was sold as is. Or if it had some factory warranty left over, that kicked in. But like nothing. Like on the WIO, it said as is. Like there was no gray area that, you buy it, you broke it, you own it. Tough. So, outrageous stuff. So one morning, I'm sitting in my office. This gigantic human being comes in, he walks around the corner, he's holding a portion of the transmission casing, in his arms. I mean, this guy's, I don't know, legit 6'8", close to 300 pounds, a gigantic human being. Comes back. Now, I had this beautiful mahogany desk, and the salesman had bought me for Christmas this. They had found this antique table leg. They drilled a hole at the end of it, put a leather strap around it as kind of a protection device, if you would, a weapon, just in case. So so this guy comes back, and he ain't saying a word. Now, I was always told in my life that somebody comes back and they're yelling and they're screaming at you and going off, that person probably not, you're probably safe. That person's not going to be doing anything. They're just blowing off, right? Somebody comes back there, you talk to a customer, anybody, in any situation, and they're quiet and just give you the look, that could be troublesome. That was this guy. He took this transmission casing and he, boom, throw it on my desk. Glass top desk. Glass shatters. And I'm like, what? This guy's just standing there. So it was like, okay, guy that doesn't say anything, that's a problem. So I reach under my desk and I take out this, I mean, it was, I don't know, maybe 3 feet long, big mahogany table leg with a hole drilled through it and a strap on it. I take this thing and boom, down on the desk like a madman. And this guy's eyes like lit up, and because now he figured I was as crazy as him or crazier, and he just left. He just walked out, left this transmission, glass everywhere. It was a mess, man. And I'm shaking like a leaf. I was scared to death. It wasn't probably a month later, we had a guy that had bought a, what was that? It was a Chrysler Cordoba. Beautiful car, as I recall. As is, drives the car off the lot. Half hour later, comes back with some problem. Salesman comes. I said, dude, it's as is. It's like, you know it's as is. He knows it's as is. He signed it as is. We've sold everything here for a zillion years as is. It's like, he's beat. We'll give him a good rate, wholesale rate and service, blah, 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 but he pays, we don't. See ya. Tells the guy's yelling, he's pissed off. He leaves. I'm walking down the hallway. There was the way the thing was set up. There were windows from my office. Then there was like a quote unquote up office, and then a greeter stand, and all glass windows, stairs leading down, and the lot was out there, and then a driveway, and then a hall off of that had, I don't know, 20 sales offices going down the side. So I'm walking down, and all of a sudden I hear the pop, 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 pop. And I'm like, what the frick is that? And then I hear the screaming. I go back. This guy had come back, and he's firing from his Cordoba, his Cordoba. He's firing shots in through the window. Everyone's on the ground. Call the police. Of course, he gets arrested, this and that. But, man, wild place, man. It was nuts there. It was so crazy there, dude. I mean, it was despicable, some of the stuff we did. Despicable. I mean, these are old car stories, and I told them I was going to let it rip today. And some of you guys on the replay, if you guys want to enter in some of your old stories, be interesting as well. But, man, there's some crazy stuff, man. There's some crazy stuff. We go to fire somebody, it was like, sit down with somebody, and it's like, all right, so Brian, have a seat. "You okay, boss? What's up?" Well, here's what's up. Let me ask you a question. What do you spend like in a week in gas? You know, going back and forth to work from your home here to the dealership and back. You know, how much gas do you spend a week? He said, I don't know, $10 a week. I said, awesome. I found a way to save you $40 a month, almost $500 a year. Beat it. You're done. Get out. You're fired. He's like, that's legit. That's the way we fire people. Just based on that. Crazy. Absolutely insane. Just brutal. No care for anybody. Didn't matter. Wild West. I can remember when leasing first came out. Oh my God. Talk about a license to steal. On the old lease agreements, and then some of you that have been around for a while remember these things, there was no information about the trade-in. So if a customer had a trade-in and they had equity in the trade or owned it free and clear, and they'd say, well, you know, we'd say, well, how much do you want for your trade? And they say $8 million. You say, okay, no problem. That's fine. And they say, really? Yeah, really. It didn't show up on the agreement, on the paperwork anywhere. We just scooped the trade. We'd ACV it for $2,000 and basically allow them nothing for it, like nothing. Total, it was just hidden. It was gone, like it didn't exist, like free money. Totally illegal. Now, ultimately, you know, luckily they changed that. So that was important. Hey, Adam, are you with me, brother?
Yes, sir.
Hey, I need to use the facilities. Would you do me a favor? I'm going to run in the ads into you. Could you do the reads?
Absolutely.
While I take a piss here. So, excuse me, guys. I'll be right back, ladies and gentlemen. And Adam, the millionaire producer at All Systems Go AV, is going to read these ads for you for our sponsors. Be right back. Sorry, dude. I'm going to explode.
All right, everyone. The first ad is for Rockstar Conference. Are you frustrated and maybe even a little burned out by the noise surrounding so many auto conferences? How do you pick the right one to go to this year? It is easier than you think. Dealers and the hottest new companies are gravitating toward the Rockstar events. They are one of the few auto industry conferences that is truly delivering new information that helps dealers rock their market. If you are serious about increasing sales and profit in every department, go to rockstarinfo.com and see why people like Grant Cardone, Gary Vee, Ask a Millionaire, and many more are investing their time in Rockstar events. Visit rockstarinfo.com for information about an upcoming unconference near you. The next sponsor is Tacoby. Wouldn't you love to capture interested buyers while they're looking at your ad and interact with them immediately? Now you can by using Facebook lead-generated ads plus Tacoby software. You are able to capture interested buyers and respond instantly to them using text message engaging the customer throughout the car buying experience. With Tacoby, you have the ability to follow up by text, import other lead sources, and text blast up to 500 customers at a time within minutes. Visit Tacoby.com to learn how you can instantly message with your new leads. And it looks like Craig is coming back. I think he'll be able to express a more in-depth look at some of these sponsors than I can.
All right, did you get them all in, or where?
No, I did Rockstar and Tacoby. I'm gonna bring it back into you for
Awesome.
Dealer World.
Okay, cool. Yeah, our friends at Dealer World, and they're great friends, sponsors of the podcast, and something. Thanks, brother. Thank you, Adam. That was millionaire producer Adam from All Systems Go AV. So we're not really ready to announce in full, but we're going to be doing something pretty awesome with our friends at Dealer World. They are a performance agency, ad agency, top notch, fast growing, awesome advertising agency. If you're considering changing who's handling your marketing, you're not pleased with who's handling your marketing, you don't have anybody handle your marketing and advertising, reach out to Hunter Swift and our friends at Dealer World or Troy Sprang. They're all over the place. All you got to do is Google those people, go to LinkedIn, Facebook, or whatever, and reach out to them. Or you can go to mydealerworld.com, mydealerworld.com. Check them out. They do a free eval, and they're freaking awesome people. They're the real deal. And we strongly recommend them. And where was that? Leave us Automotive HR and our friend Stephen Warner. This company is ridiculous. AutoMotoHR.com. Just go check the site. Human capital, the ability to recruit and retain people is paramount. Now, obviously, being the principal owner of AutoMax Recruiting and Training, sure, I'm going to say that. But this is a product that we use, that we actually resell, because it's the best. We could have chosen from any number of companies out there. But Stephen and his team just get it. One of the reasons, and I could be wrong here, but I don't think so. As far as I know, let me put it that way, Stephen is the only principal that owns one of these companies. Career-branded HR sites, job boards, onboarding, electronic onboarding, compliant. It's loaded. You got to check it out, and then get a demo for sure. But as far as I know, I'm sure there's somebody out there. No, Craig, that's not true. So and so. Okay, well, forgive me. But as far as I know, Stephen's the only one that runs one of these companies that actually has automotive background. He was in the trenches for 20 plus years, and I'm talking about big jobs. I mean, the real deal. So this guy's not only a real car person and a successful one at that, but also a tech nerd. I mean, their ability to write code and so forth and what they do in this site is second to none. So check them out at Automotive HR as well. And then, of course, our company, AutoMax Recruiting and Training, the number one automotive recruitment company in North America. All the numbers have been there for years. You've probably heard us talk about it before. We're talking about 19,000 recruiting campaigns, 190,000 men and women placed in the car dealerships all over North America in every single position. So it literally doesn't matter what you're looking for. We can help, period. End of story. It's whether you need us on site, and you'll see, a lot of those things on Facebook where we have a recruiter trainer on site, doing interviews and initial training of new hires. That is part of our business model. The larger part of our business model is remote recruiting. Let me share with you something here. I want to share with you, and it's actually from one of our sponsors, and I'm have to go deep in here because he posts about 1,000 times a day here. So where is this? Where is it here? I'll find it, because we're kind of proud of this, and it's pretty cool. So Jason Gerdner from Tacoby posted this last night at 7:15, and it reads as follows. And he shared it with Evan Driscoll from Tacoby as well. And it says, Joe Lockard and Team AutoMax know how to get interviews through the door. Added 20 new staff members today due to interviews they arranged. Highly recommend them for all your recruiting needs. That's just awesome to hear stuff like that. Evan was a real key in this particular recruiting. And what's interesting with this is we were when we first started doing business with them and helping them grow their brand out there, and because they had very few employees out there, and now they got a lot. They've grown exponentially. Evan puts in here GOAT for sure, greatest of all time. That's pretty awesome. But we used to send a recruiter trainer out there to help them with it, but now they put on Evan, and Evan is top notch. I mean, these guys just flat out get it. They just flat out get it. So we really appreciate that, and some other people put some really nice things in there to say, but we appreciate you and what you guys do out there, and to bring it full circle, Automotive HR is part of the reason we do that. But back to AutoMax Recruiting, obviously it's our company, but it also helps sponsor this podcast to bring you this information. Folks, look, your human capital is without question the most important thing that you can invest in, period, end of story. I don't care what technology is available, what shiny new object, on and on and on. If you're not right with your peeps and how you recruit and how you onboard, it's going to be a struggle. I don't care what kind of process or product you got. It's going to be a struggle, man, if you don't have the right people in place. And that's where we come in. So if it's even just counseling you, pick up the phone, call us. You might not even have to pay us anything. We might be able to walk you through it on the phone. If you'll notice today on my Facebook or on AutoMax Recruiting, a friend and a client of ours by the name of Chuck Eldridge, he's a dealer principal, owns a few stores, wrote something about building technicians through a vocational training in his town, and it's a really good read. I also posted on LinkedIn, I think. So check that out. It's a really good read. He gets it. We just, you got low unemployment rate. You've got, we got to step up and do the right thing. So we can help counsel you on how to do that, or we can do it for you. And if we do it for you, you'll get it done. You get it done in a timely manner. It'll blow your mind. The investment it's probably too cheap, flat out. We do things by volume, but it's well worth every penny. And you should check us out. And thank you for all the thousands of customers in our past and current clients. But if you've not used us, ask around in some of these groups. What do you think about AutoMax Recruiting? See what people say. I think that happens every once in a while in some groups, and it's like a big love fest. So give us a call, 800-878-5090, 800-878-5090. Go to our site, AutoMax Recruiting and Training.com, AutoMax Recruiting and Training.com, and put in a contact request, and we'll get back to you and right away and help you with that all that we can. Let's see here. I got a couple other more war stories here, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Let's see. We've talked about shots fired, transmission, cocaine. Oh, man, I haven't covered this stuff yet. I got hired away from the Chevrolet store to run this the dealership, Gump Cadillac Olds AMC Jeep Renault in Canton, Ohio. Sleepy little store, man, selling, I don't know, 400 or 500 cars a year. In my first year there, we sold like 2,700 Cadillacs and Oldsmobiles and Jeeps and Renaults in Canton, Ohio. Pretty big job. But I always like to promote, and so I had a circus there. I mean, like a circus with stilt walkers, clowns. We had Caesar the wrestling bear there. Now, I came within an eyelash of getting there and wrestling the bear. I thought better of it, which was a good idea, because this bear mauled some people. I don't mean, let's see, mauled would be probably explaining it wrong, but it was, this bear was muzzled, probably tranquilized a little bit, but he was still a badass. And but we had some people, there was some thing, they had to sign liability waivers and so forth. We had some people wrestle the bear. It was out of hand, but it was so much fun. It was crazy. It was stuff you could do back then. It's after there, I got an opportunity to run another larger dealer group in the same general area. And I had all kinds of crazy stuff there, man. We had a battle of the bands. We had the Canton band there, the Maslin marching band there, and they had an actual battle of the bands. There were thousands of people at the dealership. It was insane. We had a fiesta night. And as a matter of fact, I have some of these old clips. I mean, these are, wow, they are 30-some-year-old TV commercials. And they were kind of ahead of the times. We did one called The Three Amigos. It was pretty interesting. And then a couple of them with my dear friend who I talked about before earlier, this deceased Paul Kell, that was in some of those. But I'll throw those up in the link. Some of those old commercials, because they're old and they're pretty classic. But I'll put those out there. You guys get a giggle from those, I think, too. So pretty cool. Had a salesman. Lost a salesman one time. Passed away. Young guy. Didn't come to work. So I'm like, it was a Saturday, so I'm all pissed off. Where's so and so, and why isn't he here? And he shows up. I'm firing his ass, and this and that. And then one of my managers said, John Fire, one of my managers, was like, hey, dude, there's something wrong. He's never late for work. He doesn't miss work. There's something wrong here. I said, well, call him, this and that. And we called him and called him and called him and called him. I said, why don't you take a run out to his house? Takes a run out of his house and finds a kid in his car in the garage. Bad day. Bad day. So, things go from funny, hilarious, crazy in the car business to real life in the car business some days. If you see somebody at your dealership that's troubled, pay attention to that person. Make sure you're involved with them, him or her. Keep your eye out for stuff, man. You never know. You never know what might happen. You just don't know what's going on with people. So I don't want to leave you guys out of here with that kind of thing, but we had, I think I'll wrap it up with this story, but we had, I forget what year this was, but I had within those of you that know me know I've been sober for a real long time, but back in the day I was pretty much of a maniac, and I had 3 DUIs in a period of about 7 weeks with the same judge. The second time I had to spend like 3 days at the YMCA or something, which was a total joke. But the third time I came in his court, he said, that's enough, dude. You're going to jail. And no matter how good your lawyer is, you're not getting out of this one. You're going to jail, directly to jail. Do not pass go. So I go to jail, county jail. Brutal. So I walk in, and there's, I think they call them trustees, the guy that brings the book cart around and hands out your betting and so forth. It's typically somebody that's been there for a while. They're on their good behavior and so forth. So the guy was a trustee. I think they're called trustees. I think. But at any rate, I walk up to this guy, and he's got dreadlocks and so forth. And I take my betting. He says, "Do you not remember me, man?" I said, "No, dude. Who are you?" "Oh, sure you remember me, man." I said, "Dude, I don't remember you." It's like, give me my betting. Leave me alone. "Oh, no, slow down, my man." He said, "If you remember at the Cadillac dealership that you ran, that you had my car circled and you got in my face one night." And it was like, oh, shit, it hit me immediately. This kid had come in, had gotten an oil change or something done on his car, and tried to get out of there without paying for it. So I had his car blocked in, and then, being a badass, I get in his face, totally disrespected this guy, made him feel like crap. Of course, I had, half a dozen salesmen behind me in case something went down, and, kind of read him the riot act and so forth, and, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and that kind of thing. Like real disrespect. The guy tried to get out without paying his bill. However, probably could be a better way to handle that. So at any rate, this guy is the first guy I meet at county jail. And it hit me. I go, "Dude, man, I'm so sorry, man." It's like, "I apologize. Yeah, I remember who you are. That was out of hand. I handled it poorly. I'm sorry, man. Just be cool." Because it's like, I don't want any problem in jail. He said, "It's okay, man. I have found Rasta, man. Everything is cool." It's like, okay, that's awesome. So I will help you out, man. So it's like, okay. I'm not sure I want help, but okay. So I go in my cell block, and it was like there was 10 of us in there. And I walk in there. Lo and behold, is a guy that I sold cars. One of the guys was a guy I sold cars with. Him and I were the only two white guys in the cell block. It was kind of interesting dynamic. Luckily, being able to play basketball and cards was really good, because I ended up with everybody's cigarettes, and then I could sell them, and the whole kind of power structure in jail. So I walk in, and this guy's name is Bill Bell, and his salesman, he turned into a wholesaler. And the reason he was in there, and kind of back up, one of the dealerships that I was running at the time, and this one I got to be a little bit careful of. But in the one story I really probably should not tell, I won't tell. But every once in a while, I would get a wholesaler come in, bring me a vehicle. I go out and look at the vehicle, and I turn down most of them. I mean, it was like, there'd be I can remember one specifically. I forget the year. It was a pickup truck. Looked nice, nice paint, new tires, glass was clean, looked good. And look down, shows like, I don't know, whatever, 50-some thousand miles on the odometer, and it was like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years old. And I looked down at the pedals, and the pedals were brand new. Gas pedal, brake pedal, like brand new, like fresh out of the box new. And if you guys are kind of know anything about this stuff, that would be a pretty good indicator, or one of the indicators, that the odometer's probably been rolled back a little bit on this vehicle. And that, I said, "Look, no, man, I'm not interested in this car." He said, "Oh, well, you should be." I said, "No, I'm not. This thing's, I don't trust the miles on it, but thanks a lot for bringing it by me." I get a call from one of the owners of the dealership said, "Why didn't you buy that truck?" I said, "It's been spun back, man. It's like real obvious. It's like things been docked. It's been the odometer's been rolled back." "Yeah, I want you to buy it." I said, "Dude, it's been rolled back." I said, "Just buy the truck." I was like, "Oh, okay, I get it." So at any rate, this guy that I ended up being in jail with, he had been involved in all this, and he got thrown in jail for rolling back odometers. So it was like 2 car guys in the same cell block. Yeah, kind of a crazy deal. So, jeez, there's more, but we're running, man, we're about 3 hours in here. So a couple that I'll leave you with, though, that is like near the end of my retail career, I was a general manager of a Nissan dealership, and the place was a disaster. I had a real problem with the place, and I really had to turn it around. The culture had been messed up for years. There were guys that had been there forever. The inmates were running the asylum, frankly. And I had a pretty good feeling that there were some illegal activities going on there. So I go to the owner. I said, "Look, we got a problem here, and I'm gonna try to knock this thing out as quick as I can." He said, "What do you have in mind?" And it's like, well, I'm gonna tell everybody that we're gonna have random drug testing, and the testing starts later this afternoon, and you'll be called, blah, 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 and you'll be sent out to do a drug test. So I get everybody together. I make that announcement. It's around 11 o'clock, and I had no intention of drug testing these guys. So out of, I don't know, 22, 24 salesmen, whatever it is, like 11 of them didn't come back from lunch. It's like, they're gone. So he goes, "Okay, well, that worked and saved us some money." I said, "Yeah, yep, pretty much." So it was like half the sales force was gone, but, I didn't have to drug test anybody. They kind of took care of themselves. So, man, I could go on and on and on and on, probably losing the audience, but this thing will be available on replay. If you guys, and I'll put some other stuff in the comments on this, whether it be on YouTube or on Facebook, and as we put this thing out, because it always picks up a lot of listeners as the week goes on. But I hope those of you that watch this or listen to this enjoyed it. Feel free to go ahead and comment at some point in time with any war story that you'd like. It's got to be somewhat appropriate, although some of mine probably weren't. But go ahead and fill those in there in the comments section. It'd be awesome. Looking ahead, next week, I think it's Tuesday, we're going to have Kobe Fryer in here from the Matt Blatt organization. Kobe's a return guest, awesome guy. And we're going to have a surprise guest. He's bringing what he said is a success story in with him, so that should be interesting. Excuse me. And then I think next Friday, Adam, I don't think I sent you this one yet, but I think we're okay for next Friday. But
yeah, we have it.
Oh, you got it? Okay.
Yep.
Mr. Anthony Santangelo will be returning to the show. Anthony's off next Friday, so he's going to be joining us. We're going to have some interesting topics we're going to be talking about. And so we appreciate you guys and appreciate your tuning into the podcast and how loyal you've been. And you're really an awesome audience, and we truly do appreciate you. Appreciate the sponsors of the show. Adam, appreciate you, dude.
Thank you, Craig.
You're awesome, man. Appreciate everything you do here. And, man, I love the new equipment. This place looks awesome. And for those guests that come in, man, you'll see it's first-class stuff here.
Let's just keep it growing.
That's right, man. All right, everybody. We love you a lot. Do your best. Peace. Have a great day. Bye, everybody.
You will never be a star. But a rebel, always a rebel.